My bad. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Wednesday, March 1st. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by No House Advantage. 9-game slate on the docket for today. Lots of nonsense has happened since earlier this morning, so we are going to break it all down for you guys. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, what's good?
How's it going, man? Can't believe it's already March, which means NBA is probably going to get really shitty really soon if it wasn't already.
So I don't think it's going to be as bad as it normally is this year
Why is that?
because the worst teams are already the worst teams. Houston, Detroit, San Antonio, they're not going anywhere in the bottom three. I guess technically Charlotte could like sneak their way in now with LaMelo out, but the worst four teams cannot be caught by anyone else. So there's only so much jockeying you can do for like tank position at this point that I don't think teams are going to like run it into the ground the same way they used to. You can't gain anything additional. No one's getting into the top three and like chasing down extra odds for that. The best you can hope for now is fifth.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess.
So like, I don't think a lot of
obviously,
teams are gonna be like, well, we're eighth. Now I guess we're tanking in March to get to sixth. Like
right.
that just feels like a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, Neil with the obvious troll in chat that there are no good players in this draft.
Yeah, there aren't. Not a single one. Not a single one. Should be an interesting slate, I guess. We've had just absolute utter nonsense from earlier today into now. No AD very much changes the scope of the Lakers. We will certainly talk about them in a bit.
Late news, huge late news in the 10 p.m. game when every other game starts at 8 or earlier. So you always love to see that.
It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun. Do you know what today is?
Wednesday?
It is Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. 5 years ago, the boss man, Alex Baker, put out a tweet looking for people to do some content for this new site called awesemo.com. First man in the door with that reply. It's been 5 years since I applied for this place. It's crazy.
Nice. I guess, what have I been here? Like 3.5, 4?
I mean, you guys came in what? We were only here for like 6 months. It felt like we were here for a while, but like I started in April. I feel like you guys were here by the end of the year.
I think we were like August or September, like 2018.
Yeah, that right? Sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right. Does that sound right? Was it a year and a half? I have no memory any longer of like you guys have just like the fan vice.
Really?
I don't know. Like the fan vice integration and then COVID has just like I have no concept of time any longer. There are probably people in here that would understand.
I mean, 5 years would be 2018, right?
Yeah. So like I think it's the end of 2018.
Right. So that would be half a year.
No, for fan vice. Like I know what it is for me, but like I have no reference point for you guys coming in.
Right. But never mind. I think it was like 6, the end of the same year as you.
That sounds about right to me. Yeah, there we go. EMAC knows. Yeah, it was just me, Jake, and Spags just cranking out every single piece of content, really. There wasn't a lot else going on around these parts. But yeah, 5 years. I saw the tweet earlier today. That's just absolutely nuts. I sent my resume. I sent my resume and like a link to my YouTube channel while I was at my other job from my own cubicle. So thanks for paying for that, PPD, which is no longer PPD. Brian Cook, marrying drugs could also be a contributor. Yeah. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right. You ready to break this slate down? Because there are a lot of games where we don't have to say a damn thing.
Yeah. This slate did not require a lot of talking this morning for Lofty and I.
I'm really nervous. I want to refresh my crunch. And I know it's just like the dumbest idea in the world. But at the same time, I feel like it's only going to bother Jordan. And it creates like an interesting balancing act for me. First game up. Let's do it. Actually, let me grab this FanDuel ownership as well. Apparently, I didn't save that the last time out. First game up. Phoenix Suns, big favorites here in Charlotte. 229 total. For Phoenix, not a lot to write home about. It's just a pretty normal team. Oh, wait, hold on. Kevin Durant is playing today and making his debut for the Phoenix Suns. And if you're ever going to make a debut against someone, you should probably do it against the Hornets. That said, highest owned guy on DraftKings is 3.8% owned Devin Booker. I'm going to have a real hard time getting to Phoenix, which kind of stinks. But do you see anything differently?
No, it's tough to get there. I mean, it's obviously a great matchup against Charlotte, but we know that Kevin Durant's going to be limited. And, like Lofty and I talked about it this morning, I haven't seen what that limit is, but at 10,700, I assume it's just going to be low enough that I don't want to get there on a 9-game slate. Whether that's 24 minutes, 28 minutes, 30 minutes, it's still just, a spot that I'm not going to get to. But I assume he's going to be playing enough minutes that it is going to cut into Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, to where I don't really want to roster them at price points that do not account for Kevin Durant either. If I had to go to one guy, I think Ayton's probably the first one I go to, just because you're still going to get the rebounding from him. I think he's probably going to be less hurt by Durant since he's not as scoring dependent, but it's still, an $8,100 center on a slate with a lot of good center options, and that's probably a little bit more expensive than he should be with Kevin Durant there. You still get a high scoring ceiling from Devin Booker. Like, he can still obviously just take over and destroy Charlotte. Chris Paul can still certainly have a big game, but Durant's presence pushes all of those guys down, I think, into what's going to be a very, very large bucket of guys that, hey, this guy's good, but he's also correctly priced, doesn't stand out at all, and he's just somebody that you take a tournament flyer on in a lineup here or there. That's how I see, Booker, Paul, Ayton. That's how I'm going to see a lot of people today.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. I just can't imagine they're going to let Durant rip here. It's just, not only is it not even like a real game, but nothing matters until we get to April with this team. Like, they want to integrate him and stuff, but let's get him out on the floor. Now, he does tend to, like, when he plays, he's very rarely limited in these scenarios, but I went 28 minutes.
But I don't know what that is.
Right. So Paul George is limited usually too, and he plays 36 minutes a night. Yeah. I think we can quickly get away from Phoenix. We could hop over to Charlotte. This is a very different scenario. Charlotte Hornets, obviously without LaMelo Ball now for the rest of the year, breaks his ankle, which is, I've never seen somebody break their own ankles while dribbling, but that's a new one. Doubtful tag on PJ Washington, Teo Maledon, James Bouknight, both with the G League team, Cody Martin perpetually out. So we're going to see a couple guys get some additional playing time. We don't really know how much Kelly Oubre is going to be out there. He has been slowly ramping his way back up at 27 and a half minutes on Monday. But the big piece that we need to talk about is Terry Rozier, 7,200, projected for 30% ownership. And I think that's largely warranted. Very different role for him with no LaMelo.
Yeah, he's pretty much always playable when LaMelo is in at this price tag. So you take LaMelo out and he obviously just looks better. You're likely getting mid to upper 30s from him, assuming a relatively competitive game, more offensive opportunities. Just makes him look very good at this price.
Yeah. What do you want to do with the rest of Charlotte here? Because I'm assuming we're getting DSJ into the starting lineup, but it's like his price is sort of already where it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, the price tag is up a bit, but I do think you're probably getting, 30 minutes or so from him, which still makes him look pretty good at 5,100. It's not like you're getting a dirt cheap player, but you've gotten 12 total starts this year from Dennis Smith Jr. He's averaged 30.9 minutes per game in those games. He started 11 games without LaMelo, 30.8 minutes per game, 0.95 DraftKings points per minute. Not a high usage guy, only about 17%, but a 32% assist percentage looks good. So I still like this price tag on Dennis Smith Jr. And to go back to Rozier, he's played 19 games without LaMelo this year, 1.07 DraftKings points per minute, 29% usage rate, and 37.5 minutes per game.
I see him as like a fantastic option for today, but I mean, that's not really like a hot take or anything.
Yeah, I mean, 24% chance of being optimal on DraftKings, 34% boom percentage, 34% ownership.
And I think I'm probably a little bit higher on him than the field appears to be. But either way, get yourself some Terry Rozier. After that, I'm kind of just working everybody in. Although I do like DSJ. I'm a bit higher on DSJ than the field is as well. Anything else for Charlotte?
Gordon Hayward and Mark Williams, I think, are both fine in tournaments as well. Hayward this year, 13 games without LaMelo, 22.5% usage rate, 0.9 DraftKings points per minute. But we have seen him playing a bit better recently as well. Started out the season pretty poorly, but I think, he's reasonable. And then Mark Williams at 6,300. There's a lot of good center plays today, but he's only pulling 2% ownership, which just seems a little bit low. The guy that I, sort of compared him to earlier was Claxton, who is pulling 17% ownership. I get that Claxton projects a bit better, but barring foul trouble, you're looking at 28 to 30 minutes typically from Mark Williams. He's a very good point per minute guy. I don't mind getting to him at extremely low ownership.
Can't say I blame you there. I have 7%, but I'll take whatever I can get from Mark Williams. I do have props of his over, so that's what I'll take today. We go to Chicago. Bulls, 6-point favorites in Detroit, 221 total. I'm definitely going to get sick of talking about this Pistons team by the time this season ends because I don't trust them to do anything reasonable. Tank, no tank, doesn't matter. As we talk about the Bulls, it's Very little ownership coming into this team, except for DeMar DeRozan, 7,900. Does feel at least a little underpriced based on him, but at the same time, 0.89 fantasy points per minute over the past 30 days. He hasn't exactly been on a heater. The second highest owned guy on the Bulls is Kobe White at 3,600, 7% owned, which when I see that, my first thought is,
it's Alex Caruso.
Did we do another update? I had Caruso at 5.6.
As of a minute ago, 9.2 Caruso. Is it like none to White?
We had 7 to White and 5.6 to Caruso. So let me paste that over, because when I looked at it, I was like, oh, cool. We should just like not pay attention to the Bulls.
Yeah.
Not that it's about to get any better or anything like that. I mean, it's going to be pretty brutal one way or the other. You are correct. 9 to Caruso. And I think Caruso is a reasonable value play considering he is now a starter and 3,400. DeMar down to 9% too. So that 17% has gone by the wayside. I actually like DeMar quite a bit more now at 9.
Yeah.
What do you want to do here?
Yeah, I had the same thought when I saw that we have DeMar down to about 10% owned now. I think he looks good. Good matchup, 7,900. He has struggled recently, like you said, but I'm not giving that too much credit. It's still DeMar DeRozan. You have a pretty long track record of what this guy can do. So I think he's a good play. I think Vooch at 9% looks pretty good. I think he's actually a little bit easier to get to than he was this morning since we lost Anthony Davis. This morning, it was really tough to really prioritize paying 9,100 for Vooch when you could just pay 10-2 for Davis. It wasn't going to be that difficult to get there. But now you don't have Anthony Davis, so that does open up Vooch a little bit more. He's pulling 9% ownership. I like that. Caruso at 3,400, pulling about 9%. That's really just, there's not a ton of value on this slate. You have the Lakers as a whole, but other than that, there just right now isn't a ton that looks good. And so that's going to just lead you to get into some Alex Caruso, guys like that. I don't have any issue with that. So not one guy that stands out, but DeRozan, Vooch, Caruso, Levine, I think all, secondary, solid enough secondary plays.
I don't know how I just saw this. So the Knicks have the second longest win streak in the league right now. The Bucks have won 15 straight, which I feel like isn't getting talked about. The Knicks are at 6. The third longest win streak in basketball is the Charlotte Hornets at 5. That is bonkers to think about.
Yeah, that's wild. Wait, who'd you say won 15?
The Bucks have won 15 straight.
Okay.
The All-Star break really chops that up a little bit in people's minds, but they basically haven't lost in a month and change. It's kind of crazy to think about. I hate the Chicago team so much. This has nothing to do with DFS. Are you surprised they're not starting Patrick Williams?
I had not given it any thought.
Sure. It's just when they brought in Beverly, the last thing I was expecting was moving DeRozan to the 4 and taking Patrick Williams out of the starting lineup. But whatever. It's just if you're Chicago, why would you not be playing him more? You're making this. It doesn't matter. We'll go to Detroit. I hate this team so much. Jaden Ivey not on the injury report. Bojan Bogdanovic not on the injury report. No Isaiah Stewart. No Jalen Duren. No Isaiah Livers. Let's start with the biggest question, because there is not as much ownership as you would expect to see coming into this team if you just read off their injury report. Who do you think is the 5th starter?
Burks or Magruder?
You don't think it's Diallo?
No.
Okay. Any particular reason why?
Their tendency this year has just been to not start Diallo unless they have to.
They went to him in the second half after the injury, though, right?
Yeah, but Bojan was out.
That's a good point.
And Ivy was out.
That's a good point. I actually think it's going to end up being Magruder. It's always the guy that I don't think it's going to that's the easiest
the random
fit.
Spot starter.
Yeah. So what does that lead you to?
Yeah, so this morning, Detroit was really difficult for me to talk about because our ownership projections and projections in general were just really weird, and I didn't agree with them. Now it seems a lot more in line with how I see this. We have James Wiseman pulling the most ownership at 13%, 4,800 with power forward eligibility on DraftKings. He played about 26.5 minutes last game. You got 24.5 from Bagley. So they played a couple minutes alongside each other. Don't know if they'll do that here, but I think you can expect around 25, 26 minutes from Wiseman again. Makes him look pretty good at 4,800. Jaden Ivey, probably a little bit underpriced at 5,600 as well. Then you kind of get to tournament plays. Killian Hayes, 5,300. No issue there. Certainly not the same level of play that he was last game, though, now that Ivy and Bogdanovic are back. Diallo, if he's coming off the bench, I'm not really interested in at 4,600. If he were to start, he'd be decent. Same goes for Alec Burks. If he's coming off the bench at 4,300, nothing to write home about. If he's starting at 4,300, certainly becomes more interesting. Although, again, wouldn't be the same level of play as last slate because he's $800 more expensive than he was, and he's playing with Boyan and Ivy. But that's kind of the big thing is, you're getting back the two really high usage guys that we didn't have last game. So everybody's going to look a little bit worse. But I think Wiseman's the easiest guy to get to here, followed by Ivy.
I think I like Hayes the most, but Wiseman probably a close second. I don't really, I'm probably just quibbling over all of it. 5,300 just still sort of works for me. It's so incredible to think about how bad he is offensively. Like for him to get to 0.9 fantasy points per minute, whatever you want to call him generically, like you would just never expect that if you just looked at his raw, like his normal stat line. You'd be like, oh my God, this guy's like a 0.6 dude. How is he in the league? And he just he racks it up somehow.
Yeah, well, I talked about that a lot last slate when, Hayes was one of the most popular plays. It was like when you take Ivy and Bogdanovich off the floor, he's over a fantasy point per minute guy on 39.9% true shooting. Like that's obviously it's horrible, but from a fantasy standpoint, it kind of makes you like, or it should kind of make you like Killian Hayes more, or like trust Killian Hayes a little bit more, just because he's putting up 0.9 to 1 fantasy points per minute while not making any shots.
Yeah, he's like the literal floor offensive player for like scoring, basically.
Right.
It's insane. I got nothing else for this Pistons team. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All righty. Schedule for the rest of the day. For the 1,800 people that are in here, 1, you need to hit that like button. We need to get that total up quite a bit. 2, we've got NBA Live Before Lock coming up after this, 6 p.m. to 7:30. You guys know the drill there. Then you get PGA Live Before Lock from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So lots of additional content coming out on the Stokastic YouTube channel. If you're interested in signing up at Stokastic, you are in luck. There should be a link in the description. I believe Jordan can also drop it into chat. 50% off a week or a month, your choice, whichever one you want. I think it's a pretty decent deal. You get NBA projections, ownership, boom bust tool. We're talking leverage scores in that boom bust tool. Everything that you could want for the NBA. If you want it for 50% off, you can get it. All you have to do is click that link and sign up. You see it right there. Jordan dropped the link. Fantastic. Gotta love it. Why wouldn't you want to get behind the paywall? Get access to all the data that Adam and I are talking about throughout this show. The Cleveland Cavaliers, 5-point dogs in Boston, 218 total. I was excited when I got to this one during the process show this morning because I was just like, oh, as long as nobody's out, like there's no chance I'm going to like anything here. Highest owned guy on Cleveland, 4.4% owned Donovan Mitchell. Any chance you're getting to Cleveland with any sort of volume?
I think they're kind of a fun team in tournaments. Like if you're playing a lot of lineups, just because there's no ownership coming in and you do have good fantasy players, but I don't think there's anything that you can prioritize. I don't think there's any one guy that stands out here. Allen, Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, relative to position, relative to salary, all look very, very similar to me. We have them all projected for between 2 and 4% ownership. They all have between a 4 and 7% chance of being optimal. So low probability plays that are just going a little bit underowned, but that sort of just means, in large field tournaments, a little bit of Mitchell here, a little bit of Garland there, but there's not one guy that I can point to and say I think is a particularly good play.
Kelly Oubre starting today for the Hornets.
That's interesting.
Which I assume is for LaMelo Ball.
Right, which would mean Smith is not.
Right. Just to circle back quickly, do you think that does that matter to you at all for Kelly Oubre? 6,500 shooting guard, small forward, makes him like able to be played instead of like mostly uninteresting now?
So hang on, my computer froze. But so we do need that starting lineup. What if he's starting in place of PJ Washington?
Could be. I mean, there's also I could see not wanting to start JT Thor.
Yeah. So Oubre starting, I mean, obviously makes him look better. It makes me think that there's more minutes available for him. He played 28 last game, so you could certainly just be getting him in the low to mid 30s. So I think it does, him being in the starting lineup does make him look like a pretty decent option. Revenge game too, if you're into that. But 6,500 for Oubre. I think he's very similar to Gordon Hayward now. We do need the starting lineup though, because obviously this has a big impact on Dennis Smith Jr. If Oubre is starting and Smith is coming off the bench. I don't like him nearly as much as at 5,100. If Oubre is starting in place of JT Thor, then I still like Dennis Smith Jr.
I assume it's in place of Thor. I just totally forgot that it was Thor at this point because it's the Hornets and like it's just not a team that's in my Rolodex really quickly. Anyway, let's get it back to Cleveland. I think we've wrapped up everything relevant for Cleveland. Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, Allen, get away from everything else.
Yeah, sounds good.
Boston Celtics side of this one, and they are essentially at full strength. There's a Q tag on Mike Muscala. I don't think that's a lot to write home about. Jaylen Brown is back. Tatum at 13% ownership. Brown at 8%. No one else getting anything. I don't find Tatum and Brown to be all that interesting. I feel like I'd rather just get to the opposite. I'd rather get to the Cleveland pieces that actually no ownership. But that said, they're Tatum and Brown. If you want to roster them, by all means. There's just nothing in this game. Great game to watch.
Yeah, it's just another one. We've seen that trend recently where you get some good basketball games, actual basketball games, and they just don't have a lot of fantasy value. Same here. Tatum's getting more ownership now because of Anthony Davis being out. It does sort of open up a void at that price range where it's easier to get the Tatum. He has Ford eligibility too, which is nice. Tough matchup, but should be a competitive game. If you get the Tatum, fine, but not a priority. Same goes for Jaylen Brown. Other than that, though, I don't really have anything from this team.
It's that easy to talk about. You guys should go out of your way to watch this one. Yeah, this is two teams, full strength. This is what you're looking for real basketball. I think this could be a good one. And I mean, two high-level defensive teams when they're dialed in. So I'm very anxious to see what this ends up looking like. But from a DFS perspective, good luck. Then we go to Philadelphia. We're running this one back. 1.5-point dogs in Miami, 215 total. We just saw this game on Monday. For Philly, Joel Embiid is questionable. That was a late ad. Well, maybe not late, but like afternoon ad to the injury report. He wasn't there this morning. Now, Joel Embiid carries a Q tag basically every game. So there's also that.
The only reason this is weird is because he was a late addition.
Yeah.
It's almost like somebody on the Sixers is probably just like, oh, this looks weird. Oh, Embiid's not on there. Like, let's fix that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I understand why he wasn't on there for the first game or two, whatever, coming out of the break. It's like, okay, he's had a week off. Like, everybody knows he's going to play in this one. And now we're back to like, okay, well, we forgot to get him on, and now we're just going to have him perpetually questionable until April. So assuming Embiid is in, is there anything here for you other than Embiid and potentially Harden?
That's pretty much it. Assuming Embiid's in, he does become a little bit easier to get to now because of Davis being out. The opportunity cost at the center position just dropped significantly when you remove Anthony Davis. But still a tough matchup. Still, I think pretty much a correct price tag on Embiid at 11-2. Field pretty much in line with optimal percentage, 10% ownership, 13% chance of being optimal. Harden at 10-3, going a little bit under owned as well, 8% chance of being optimal, 5% ownership. Should play big minutes, tough matchup, correct price tag. So nothing really standing out, but as far as underpriced, but clearly Embiid and Harden are two of the higher projected guys on the slate.
I have nothing else here to say about Philly. Like, DeAnthony Melton's interesting if you think today is the day that he gets 30 minutes, but if he happens to be the day where he gets 13, you're probably going to be really bummed that you had him.
Yeah, and I mean, the issue there too is that the points per minute clearly decline when he's playing, most of his minutes with Harden and Embiid on the floor. I do think it's interesting to note that he's only pulling 2% ownership. We have Alex Caruso, for example, pulling nearly 10% at that price point. You have better positional eligibility on DeAnthony Melton. The other day, he was projected for ownership, and I'd said that guys like that, typically I just try and do the opposite of the field because there's so much volatility in his playing time. But when he's 2% owned, knowing that there's a chance of him playing 28 to 30 minutes, that is actually pretty interesting.
On to the Heat, where the highest owned guys here are 1.5% owned Tyler Hero and 1.5% owned Jimmy Butler. I think Bam looks the best of the three, but you're obviously limited a little bit from the center position. Are we just going straight back to Jimmy and thinking, okay, it's another Philly game. We need to artificially increase his projection to get to him because this team looks terrible.
I didn't realize till this morning he'd only played 32 minutes in that game also. Yeah. This team doesn't look good. And the big difference between today and last time Miami played, Miami is the same team today that they were last time. You can point to any of Hero, Love, Butler, Bam, and say, like, they're not getting any ownership. They're a good fantasy producer. Like, let's take a shot on them. That's perfectly fine. But the difference is that the other day on that 4-game slate, pretty much every good player on the slate was popular except for these Miami guys. Here you have the Miami guys who are good at low ownership and like, I don't know, 10 other teams full of the same type of play. So instead of, just being pointing to Miami and saying like, hey, this is an easy way to get contrarian, they're just in that huge bucket with all these other guys and makes them, even less of a priority than they were. I think if I went to one guy, it would probably be Hero, just because he's the cheapest of Butler, Bam, and himself. He has MPE, but yeah, there's nothing, if you get to a little bit of Bam, Butler, Hero, Love, it's all fine, but nothing that stands out whatsoever.
Did you say Love?
What?
$5,600 Love. He's not on my radar today. I was surprised to hear it.
No, I mean, I assume he's going to play like 26 minutes.
Fair enough.
Only played 21 last game, but
yeah,
I assume you're getting like 24 to 26.
Yeah, I gave him 25.
But yeah, I mean, I was just lumping him in with those other guys. I think like Butler, Bam, Hero, clearly the three that you would get to first.
Sure. Another game where like I'm happy to watch it, sort of. I mean, Miami is not. They're a weird team. I don't really know what to make of them. I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs, but like I also don't feel like they're any good. It's really weird.
Yeah, I don't think they're very good.
Kyle Lowry, man. Shame. I have nothing else here.
If only they could have added Westbrook.
Yeah, they could be way worse.
Yeah, that was, like you and I talked about it. That was just such a bizarre rumor. Like, how the hell is Westbrook going to fit on this team? It probably would have been a worse fit than the Lakers, which was about as bad as you could get.
Yeah, I can't even imagine it. Like the fit alongside Butler is about as bad of a fit as you're going to get anywhere in the league.
And you have Oladipo. They've already had issues where it's pretty tough to play Oladipo and Butler together, but they kind of have to. Now you throw you wanted to throw Westbrook into that mix also.
It's still blowing my mind that he's the starting point guard for the Clippers right now. It's
still pissing me off. He's not on the Wizards.
Yeah, I wish he would have went to the Wizards too. Like, just do your Russell Westbrook stuff on a team that nobody gives a shit about.
Yeah,
simple.
They'd be fun. Like, they have three good players, then you have Westbrook running up and down the floor.
Where did they get three good players from?
The Lakers, the Mavericks in the draft.
Yeah. I can't. I'm fully out on Kyle Kuzma and anything in life. Did you see that bullshit he showed up at the arena in last night?
No, I mean, I've seen his general wardrobe, but no.
I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it looked like crumpled tinfoil. I don't know. Like, it's the whole thing. It's dumb. To me, when I look at that, like, if you want to be dressed nice or even call it like fashion or whatever, that's fine to me.
I don't hate it.
If you're spending that much time thinking like, oh, I got to wear whatever this robot suit is, like, you're probably not doing something enough in your life.
I don't hate it. On the scale of things I've seen Kyle Kuzma wear, it's not that bad.
It's one of the dumbest things ever. Yeah, like if Dylan Brooks showed up as Stone Cold yesterday, I'm all in for that. At least that's thematic. I don't know what Kyle Kuzma is yesterday. I don't know what that. I have no concept. I don't know the material. It makes no sense to me. Yeah. Do you understand it at all? Like, what do you think that's made out of?
I don't know. It looks comfortable though.
It's either really comfortable. It's one or the other. There's no middle ground there.
Yeah, it's either really comfortable or it's like barbed wire.
Yeah, there's no middle ground. Don't hate. I mean, he's wearing something that I've never seen a single human being even approximate anywhere ever in life, other than like on stage. I hate it. They should have just been like, go home and get and change.
Is it better, or do you like it more or less than the oversized pink, whatever the hell you wore?
I hate them. I hate them both. I hate them both. You know what I do love though?
What's that?
No House Advantage, the sponsor of this show. If you want to sign up at No House Advantage, you can use the promo code Stokastic. There's going to be a link in chat. There's going to be a link in the description. You get up to $100 on your first deposit. And you can go about this a couple different ways. One, you can get into their pick'em contest. They got the 2K Slam Dunk running tonight. They got the 2K Puerto Rico Open running as well. Or you can also head to our Odd Shopper channel, watch my No House Advantage versus the House video from the morning, or check out Twitter where we post additional cards. We're taking over-unders. We're grabbing player props. Put together 4 on one card. Now you got to hit them all. You're going to get 11x your money. You put together a 5 prop parlay, you're going to get 21x your payout. You got to hit 5 of them though. There's no middle ground here. 4 and 1's not going to get it done if you're going for all 5. We have so many tools at stokastic.com for No House Advantage that will help you out. If you're trying to get your lineups just automatically generated for the Pick'em contest, we can help you out there. We have all of the props graded with our win rates. You can subscribe to a package to get those as well. So much No House Advantage content coming out. I don't want you guys to miss it. And I highly recommend that you check it out. The payout structure on their versus the house cards are fantastic. I think they're highly beatable, particularly with our data. Step in behind the paywall, check it all out, but sign up at No House Advantage using that promo code Stokastic and get up to $100 on your first deposit. You put in 100, your balance is now 200. Can't beat that.
Way too much talk about packages on shows today.
Hey, man, look, I wholeheartedly agree with every word that Laffy said. I have been using everything that they sent me. It's all great. Ball cream, ball spritzer, both trimmers, beard conditioner, underwear, t-shirt, all of it. I'm in for all of it.
Yeah, it's easy to agree with what he said when you didn't have to see his balls on camera.
That's true. That's true. I'm glad today wasn't the day that I popped into the Zoom stream for that. Couldn't have been any good there. You still keeping coffee around with me? We still on the same page?
Oh, I didn't think about that anymore.
I don't blame you. We're going to game number 5. The Brooklyn Nets, 7.5-point dogs in New York. Always in New York, but this one taking on the Knickerbockers. For Brooklyn, no Ben Simmons, no Edmund Sumner, who had a report come out that he was not on the injury report this morning, and then 5 seconds later, it was just like, by the way, Edmund Sumner is also still out. Got a good chuckle there. I was like, that's the news we really needed. Yuta Watanabe, also questionable. 16% ownership coming into Nick Claxton, 11 to Mikal Bridges. I actually want to talk about both of those guys. Let's talk about Bridges first. Where do you think his usage rate stabilizes?
Mid-20s?
Yeah, I bumped him up today after yesterday's nonsense. He's been like 20. I had Giannis minus 8.5 points against Bridges, and I think they tied at like 31 or something. Nah. So I went in and looked at it, and he's been 22 plus for every single game since he's come over. I think he's just a different person, at least mildly, for Brooklyn.
Yeah, 27% usage rate since joining the team. Still a limited sample. 173 minutes, 354 possessions for Bridges with Brooklyn, but 27% usage rate. Also a 17% assist percentage. That's interesting to me too. Just, more involved in terms of that than he was in Phoenix. So far we've seen him kind of be the guy to step up offensively. Still don't know if that long-term is the case. It does make me still think that there is volatility where you're going to get some big Dinwiddie games. You're going to get some big Cam Johnson or maybe Cam Thomas games. But I do think that Bridges, at least so far, certainly has been the guy since coming to Brooklyn. And, the price tag so far has been deserved.
Evidently, Kelly Oubre will start for the injured LaMelo Ball on Wednesday, per the tweet from 9 minutes ago. But I still think that there could be some confusion in that one. So let's wait for the lineup. How do you feel about 16.5% ownership coming into Nick Claxton, who I think looks like a good play, but at the same time, it feels weird to me that he's like separating from the pack.
Yeah, that's how I see it as well. I think Nick Claxton's a good play. I would, if you were like 6% owned, I'd be saying I think he's a good play. At 16%, I think he's a fine play. It's just I think the field is there. And I mentioned it earlier. Like, what is the big difference between Claxton and Mark Williams? There's going to be plenty of other centers, to talk about as well. Yeah. I get Claxton projects a little bit better, but it's not like this is a great matchup. He's likely to give you around 30 minutes. You're likely getting 28 to 30 from Mark Williams. There's just a lot of centers you can get to that are comparable to Claxton and not getting as much ownership. So I think he's a good play. I just think that he's separating from the field a little bit more than he probably should be ownership wise.
Okay. We're on the same page there. It was a weird one to me to see him just like get that ownership. Again, he looks good, but I don't think he looked like solo owned guy in a range good. I don't have much else here for Brooklyn. Are you surprised to not see like Spencer Dinwiddie be soaking up like 28% usage for this team? Because that was the other thing that I assumed when this first happened, and he's just not doing that.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought you would see more similar production to when he played like without Bradley Beal with Washington, when he played without Luka with Dallas. But he's just reinforcing that he is an absolute beta, and if anybody alongside him wants the ball, Dinwiddie's going to just fade into the background.
You should tell him that to his face.
Probably wouldn't do shit. It's just who he is.
I have nothing else here to say about Brooklyn.
No, me neither.
The New York Knicks are on this slate, which means we know exactly what they're doing. There's very little deviation to this ever. 17% ownership coming into Julius Randle, who I think looks good. But the guy that I like the most here is probably 5K Mitchell Robinson at 7% ownership. There's another guy where I think I could just go a different direction than Nick Claxton. Clearly don't have any problem going to Brunson. We know what we're doing here, but Randall, Brunson, two primary guys, but Mitchell Robinson playing 31.7 minutes on Monday. This dude is back to playing real minutes.
Yeah, the ownership has come up a bit since this morning, which is disappointing to see, but still not like he's getting a lot of it. Only 5K, 7% owned. I think that makes a lot of sense. 2 games ago, he played 28 minutes, but lost like 4 or 5 to garbage time. So you're just back to seeing him, in competitive games where he's not in foul trouble. You can expect 30 plus minutes. It's just a little bit too cheap of a price tag on him. Julius Randle at 9,500. His ownership has come up as well. I think it's just a function of Anthony Davis being out, opens up more in that price range. When Davis was in, he's just soaking up so much ownership because he projected so much better than anybody, remotely close to him in salary. But now it's there's a lot more room to get to Randall. So I like him at 9,500. Brunson at 8,600 is fine as well.
I don't have anything else here to talk about for the Knicks.
You're not jamming in RJ Barrett?
No, I mean, now it seems to be established that he's playing 28 to 30 minutes. He hasn't had one of those, all of a sudden RJ Barrett played 39 minits today games that bring back all of my hope. So now I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, I still think the Barrett quickly Hart trio, there's still some upside there at these cheap price tags, but just with this being a 9-game slate, they kind of just fall off.
We head to Memphis now, 10-point favorites in Houston, 230 total. For the Grizzlies, no Steven Adams, Jake LaRavia questionable. 29% ownership coming into Ja Morant at 9,900. I have a hard time saying that that's incorrect. His price just seems a little low for what we've got going on here, and obviously a little low for a matchup against Houston. Nobody else getting any ownership for Memphis. So give me your thoughts on Morant, and then what do you want to do with the rest of the Grizzlies?
Have we gotten an injury report from them yet? Okay, we have. And they're not doing anything stupid. So I thought there was a pretty good chance that you were going to get some value opening up there, but you only have Steven Adams out and then LaRavia questionable, which who cares? So it basically, Morant looks really, really good. He looked good already, and then he's another one that just benefits from Anthony Davis being out because you just have more exposure you can allocate to him at 9,900. Great matchup. Obviously a very good point per minute guy, pulling 30% ownership, 20% chance of being optimal, 27% boom percentage. Makes him look really good. I'd like any of Jackson, Bane, Brooks in tournaments just because they're not getting much ownership. They are correctly priced, but there's still a ceiling for all of those guys. Jaren Jackson can go out there, block a million shots. Bane can, just get hot offensively. Brooks, if he happens to, run into a couple steals, knock down, shoot more efficiently than normal, he is cheap. This game is on the road, so Jaren Jackson's defensive projections are not as good as they would be if this were at home. But, I like the upside that they all offer at basically no ownership in tournaments. But Morant's the only guy that I'd be prioritizing.
We're on the same page. I got to about 27% Morant on my first run. Then we go to Houston. Q tag on KPJ. Jalen Green is available. Jayshawn Tate is available. Tate did not play yesterday. Jalen Green played 19 minutes. There is basically no ownership coming in here to anyone other than Tari Eason. Let's start with this conversation. How many minutes are you expecting if KPJ plays and if Jalen Green plays?
For Tari Eason?
No, for Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green. Sorry. Poor wording.
Probably mid to upper 20s.
Interesting, really. You're not reading into the 19 from Jalen Green at all yesterday?
Not really.
Okay. I don't really feel like they're going to give these guys more than 24 minutes today, given the injuries that they had.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I've worried about too much because I'm just not playing them.
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting for the trickle down for the rest of it because we do see Tari Eason pulling a little bit of ownership, but as these guys come back, I wonder if this goes back to what it looked like prior, where Tari Eason isn't really picking up additional minutes.
And so also Jalen Green played 13 minutes in the first half yesterday. He just didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. So again, I think 26 to 28 makes some sense. Yeah, I'm not sure. I am curious what the rotation ends up looking like with Eason, but I assume that they just want to get him some more minutes as well. It's not like this team's playing for anything. Like, why wouldn't you want Tari Eason just getting a little bit more experience? We have seen him play more minutes at the three, where he's out there alongside Jabari Smith with a center on the floor. You had him and Smith together um, for like 16 minutes yesterday. If my math's right, which it may not be, but I think it was like 15, 16 minutes they were together. So part of that, was a blowout, but I think that you can get low to mid 20s from Tari Eason. He's cheap enough and a good enough point per minute guy that I think he's still a pretty interesting play.
I would agree that like he's young and they want to get him minutes. The whole fucking team's young. Like these are all children across the board. I mean, they've got like 12 guys that are all born from 2000 on. Who's the vet? Who's the oldest guy on this team that plays?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's Jayshawn Tate, born in 1995. He's 27.
I didn't realize he was that old.
Yeah. After that, it is Kevin Porter Jr. is born. So Jayshawn Tate, October 95. KPJ, May 2000. Everybody else that's in this rotation is 2000 and forward. So like we're rotating through the same sort of like young dudes that need playing time. That's what my concern was. Do you like anything from Houston at all? I'm perpetually interested in Jabari Smith, but anything else for you?
Tari Eason, and that's about it.
Yeah. I'm with you. Let's hit Goody's super chat. Thank you for that one, Goody. He said, how do you guys feel about Morant and Lillard in the same lineups within 10 points of optimal DK 20 max? I mean, if you can get it, get it.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it. Like, obviously, they're great. I liked Lillard more this morning when we didn't know Anthony Simons was questionable. I do, like, I have concerns about Lillard if Simons is in. I still kind of would be surprised if Simons plays, but Lillard is priced for Simons to be out. So, not to say Lillard can't have a big game if Simons is in, but I certainly like Lillard a lot more if Simons is out.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. If Simons is in, I think it's going to be a real tough sell to pay. What is it, 11.9 for Lillard today?
Yeah, like he's priced for the Luka Doncic-esque usage and assist percentage, which is not the case if Anthony Simons is in.
Correct. I have nothing else here for Houston.
Me neither.
The Orlando Magic are 9-point dogs, taking on Milwaukee, 227 total. Only guy out for Orlando feels pretty familiar. That would be John Isaac. Hamstring injury here. 5% ownership going to Franz Wagner. This is a team that, on a slate like this, I feel like I haven't rostered in ages.
Is this the least appealing team on the slate?
I don't know. We didn't get to Milwaukee yet.
They have Giannis.
That's fair. That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, like, Miami's pretty awful. Cleveland, Boston, they have like real players at the top end, but like they're all equally as unappealing across the board. You just have, you'll feel better about the names that show up from those teams, but they're sort of the same DFS plays. Yeah.
To me, they're similar DFS plays. To me, the tiebreaker and the reason I think Orlando's probably the least appealing team on the slate is Orlando's a really shitty team playing the Bucks, while Miami, Cleveland, Boston, like they're all good teams in what should be competitive games.
Money making Mitch, Simons is not out. He is questionable. But just putting that out there. If you had to get to an Orlando guy, Franz, Paolo, Fultz, right?
Yeah, any of them are fine. Franz Wagner, fine as well. But yeah, like they're okay. It's just I probably am getting to guys from other teams, low-owned guys from other teams before I'm getting here. Just the combination of a good Milwaukee defense, obviously plenty of blowout risk, correct price tags. It all just, kind of works against Orlando.
Well, then let's slide it on over to Milwaukee, a team that is, I think, just as uninteresting. They just happen to have, one of the best players on the planet, which allows you to actually roster someone of value. Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis not on the injury report. Crowder, Ingles, Portis all available. No Wes Matthews. No Chris Middleton in this one. And then apparently they axed Sandro Mamukelashvili a little bit earlier today so they could open up a two-way spot. Doesn't matter for today. 17% ownership going to Giannis. By all means, get to Giannis if you would like. I cannot imagine having a single share of anybody else from the Bucks.
That's how I see it. Giannis is another one that benefits from Anthony Davis being out in terms of the slate. Obviously, no impact on his production, but just makes him easier to get to when you don't have Davis for 2K less. Power forward eligible and center eligible. Certainly happy to get to, as much Giannis as I can, but value still pretty questionable on this slate as far as cheap guys go. That's keeping the Giannis ownership in check a bit, but he looks good if you can get there. Nothing else looks remotely interesting to me from Milwaukee. You have Holiday priced up. As long as Giannis is in, it's tough to pay $8,800 for Holiday. Lopez is priced up. Portis is relatively expensive. It's pretty much Giannis or bust.
There we go. We got 2,300 people in here, 329 likes. Absolutely hit that like button. We should be able to get this one up to 500 before we get out of here. We have 2 games left, but we got to talk about our lineup generator. This is a tool that you guys should absolutely want. If you're a limited lineup player playing anywhere from 1 to 20 lineups, this is what you're looking for. You can get 50% off your first week of our NBA lineup generator. It's going to be $9 per week after that, but getting it for less than $5 to start, pretty good deal as far as I'm concerned. What we're doing on the back end, we're taking our projections. We are generating thousands upon thousands of lineups, and we are culling that list. We are cutting out all of the things that we don't think grade out all that well, throwing it all in the garbage, and then presenting everything else to you. And it's sort of like Tinder. You're swiping through lineups. If you like it, click save. If you don't, click discard. If you want to lock a player, you can do that. If you want to run your lineups to say that you want them to be chalky for a cash build, you can do that. If you want them to be balanced for a smaller field, you can do that. If you want to be contrarian for large fields, you can do that. If you generate a lineup and you're like, oh, that one guy doesn't look right, click the little button, flip him out for somebody else, save that lineup. You really can't. It's fast, it's easy, and all of the real hard work for you has been done on the back end. So if you want to check it out, if you're interested in playing a couple extra lineups or even just playing that one lineup that you have, sign up using the link in the description or the link in chat for right now and get yourself our lineup generator for less than $5. It's an absolute no-brainer to me for you guys to try it. You will waste $5 in your life at some point in time. I don't believe this will be a waste at all. I think it's going to be a tool that you're going to want to use moving forward. 2 games to go. We're at the big one for today. The Los Angeles Lakers are 3.5-point dogs in OKC, 227 total. The Lakers are without D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James. Fascinating to see that the 3 best players on the team are not here for today. Cole Swider and Scottie Pippen Jr. not here as well. We've got 75% ownership coming into Jared Vanderbilt, 60 to Rui, 60 to Malik Beasley, 35 to Schroeder. A lot of single digits coming around everywhere else. Let's start with the no doubt about it place. When you look at the Lakers, who are the dudes that are basically in everything you're doing?
As much as I dislike it, Vanderbilt at 4,900, Beasley at 4,500, Schroeder at 5,400. Those are the guys that I think really stand out. Curious to see what the starting lineup is. Right now, we don't have any. Well, we have 10% ownership going to Bamba. We have 2 going to Wendy and Gabriel. I don't know how that holds up. If Wendy and Gabriel starts, he's one of the best values. If Mo Bamba starts, he's one of the best values. Don't know which one of them is starting, but the backup is playable and the starter is fantastic. So that's something that's going to change. Right now, I'm assuming Bamba starts, even though Gabriel was the backup last game. If that's the case, I absolutely will be playing a ton of Mo Bamba.
Are you worried that neither one of them is a good play?
No.
Okay.
As long as one of them is starting, I'm not worried that either of them is as long as one of them is starting, I'm good.
I could see like 18 to 20 minutes for Bamba, same for Gabriel. Everything else goes to Vanderbilt, at which point everything is just like, oh shit, Bamba and Gabriel are a problem.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. Like if you don't get 48 minutes from Bamba plus Gabriel or anywhere close to it.
I mean, I don't think that we're going to get 48 minutes out of those 2. I mean, whether they want to do Rui or Vanderbilt, do they have anybody else that has that sort of size? Not really. So
I think as long as you get like 40, if you're even getting like 40 though, I think you're good.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, they're going to look good. I'm just going to be nervous about any minutes projection there. But like if you get Bamba starting and you're giving him 24, he's a fantastic play. I don't want to try to walk anybody off of that. But I do think that there is some downside here because this is a team full of random parts and they don't necessarily have to do anything. Vanderbilt seems like the safest play of anybody on the Lakers, right?
Probably. I mean, the concern is just that he's not a good offensive player. And so all these guys
they should miss a lot of shots.
That is true. But offensive rebounding also more difficult than defensive rebounding. So that's kind of my concern is like you can take all these guys out, but he's still not. It's not going to be like the Jared Vanderbilt show. You're just going to get more work for Beasley, for Schroeder, potentially for Rui. So that's my concern. But the minutes should be there. He's still pretty cheap. It's not like he's a bad point per minute guy. He's just not a great offensive player. But Schroeder without Westbrook, LeBron, or Davis on the floor this year, only 129 minutes. You're not going to get a big sample here, but nearly a 25% usage rate, nearly a 20% assist percentage, over a fantasy point per minute. He has shot pretty hot during that stretch, so that probably comes down a little bit, but the rates are there for him. You have a 25% usage rate for Lonnie Walker. He's somebody that could certainly walk into a little bit more playing time. And
pun intended?
Not intended. I was hoping it was just going to go completely missed. A little bit, more usage as well. It's a tricky team because Davis being out certainly does help to solidify minutes for a lot of these guys, but a lot of them just aren't players that are going to step into more usage. Like Austin Reeves is even more likely to be in the closing lineup now than he was already, but he's not a high usage guy. He's played 75 minutes without Davis, LeBron, or Westbrook. He has a 17.5% usage rate. Troy Brown, 93 minutes without those guys, 11.7% usage rate. It's just, Rui can certainly step into more usage. A lot of the guys that you're seeing solidified minutes for aren't the guys that you expect to take on more usage. So it's kind of a tricky one to, think about how it's all going to work. But even in 20 minutes, I'm getting a lot of Bamba. I'm getting a lot of Schroeder, getting a lot of Vanderbilt, getting a lot of Beasley. Rui is one, like he's getting 56% ownership right now. I think he's a good play. I don't totally think
it has to be an assumption that he's starting and playing 30 minutes, right?
We have him right now at 29 minutes. So yeah, I guess.
Okay. That could it's just someone's going to have to get projected for starter minutes. And it just seems like that's what we're doing for Rui for right now. I want to point one thing out. White Nose in chat just said it, and I know you're going to agree with me. We say this, we see this a lot, and it's just something that I want to point out. Wenyen Gabriel is easier to roster because he's cheaper, and if you only get 20, you okay. If you know that Wenyen Gabriel is going to score 20 points today, you shouldn't play him in any lineup.
Correct. There is still a spot in your lineup is worth points. Like it's not as simple as saying like, 20 at 3K. If you know any player on a 9-game slate, pretty much, if you know any player scoring 20 points, you would never play them.
Correct. Yeah, that is a very, very, very bad outcome for Wenyen Gabriel. Assuming you're playing like a standard issue GPP. But it's a 9-game slate. Like you're going to have other guys sub 4K that outperform that by 15 points. Right. And that is a guy that like you're already behind the 8 ball. What else did you want to say here for the Lakers?
Just that there's a lot of plays one way or the other. I'm interested to see, how things shake out. I assume we're not going to have the starting lineup by lock, but Rui is a good play. Reeves is a good play. Brown, Walker, like they're all interesting. But right now, I actually really like Lonnie Walker only pulling 3% ownership. To me, that's a really, really appealing tournament play because, like I was saying, he is one of the few guys on this team that actually can step up and take on a higher usage role. Of the available players, guys that you would expect to actually soak up more usage, Beasley, Rui, Schroeder, Lonnie Walker. That's Agreed. It in terms of guys that really can, create or do anything offensively other than, catch and shoot or grab offensive rebounds in the case of Vanderbilt. So, maybe like Bamba to some extent, but like he's not creating. You're talking about those 4 guys as guys that like actually could take on bigger roles offensively. And that can also potentially mean more minutes. Like you need guys to score. And so you could just get, Lonnie Walker taking some of those Troy Brown minutes or even taking some of those Austin Reeves minutes just because it's like, look, we don't need Austin Reeves out here playing defense. We need somebody to go score the ball. So, even if you get like 22 minutes from Lonnie, the increased usage makes him an interesting option, but then also just the fact he could walk into more, God, I did it again. He could run into more minutes. Just makes him really, really interesting to me at, 3% owned, even though I'm assuming he is coming off the bench.
On the Oklahoma City side, we're getting 30% ownership to Josh Giddey, who I know is pissing people off. We're only getting 20 to Lou Dort, which is to me wildly too low and should absolutely be higher than Josh Giddey. 10% to Wiggins, 10% to Saric off of yesterday's game because for Oklahoma City, we have no Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, no Poku, and no Kenrich Williams. We're rolling the dice here a little bit, but I I think Dort is the best play. I also think that Isaiah Joe at sub 10% ownership is pretty interesting today too.
Yeah, it shouldn't be ignored that you are missing a couple of guys here. Lindy Waters is not on the injury report. He was out yesterday, but no Kenrich Williams. So you're taking away those minutes. There was somebody else out too, right?
Kenrich Williams, Poku, and SGA.
Okay, I was thinking there was another random guy that was out, but
I mean, Usman Jang and Sar are, I believe, both with the G League. So
yeah, no, so it's just Kenrich Williams, but he played a lot of minutes yesterday. Some of that could end up being Waters. OKC is sort of what they always are in terms of you're never going to be completely comfortable going to them because you can just get those random games where Josh Giddey plays 20 minutes and Lou Dort plays 22 minutes. But they are pretty cheap. They are in a good matchup. You have a $3,200 Dario Saric, power forward eligible, coming off of a game where he played 27 minutes. You certainly don't need 20, or you don't need 27 for him to be a good play. Even if you go to like 20 to 22, he's going to be a good point per dollar option. Isaiah Joe, if he starts, is going to project as a good value. There's risk there just because it's OKC, but over his last few games, you've seen a 36-minute game. You've seen around like 28 minutes in a game where he started the first half and not the second half. You've seen 22 in a game where he started both halves. So there's a lot of volatility there, but there's also opportunities for him at 4,500. Lou Dort, we know, sees more usage without SGA. Josh Giddey's more productive without SGA. Good spot, good team to get to. It's just, a matter of hoping that OKC runs some sort of a reasonable rotation.
I've got nothing else to add here, and we are a bit up against it. Do you have anything else you want to add for OKC?
Nope.
All righty. Then let's go ahead and hit some of these super chats that I have evidently missed. Jordan, we had one. Can we get some tiers picks? Nikki Dizzle. Adam, can we get some tiers picks?
I don't even know what tiers is. No, I mean, I do, but no.
Yeah, that's sort of how I feel. I'm going to try to pull it up as fast as I can. Just to make sure we can get to this. We're going to run a little long on this one, but I'm going to hit you with each tier. You go off the top of your head or whatever you're ready for. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Embiid, Giannis, Lillard, Durant.
Giannis.
Tatum, Harden, Morant. Randall, Mitchell, Booker, Butler, Vooch.
Randall.
Jaylen Brown, Bam, Drew Holiday, Brunson, Levine, Ayton.
Brunson?
Yeah. DeRozan, Garland, CJ, Ingram, Bane, CP, Şengün.
Ingram.
And then this final one is
Giddey in the final one.
Yep, agreed. There we go. All right. Next up, White Nose said, thank you guys for everything. Good luck. Good luck to you as well. Jamal Parker, Josh, who's your power rankings now that Davis is out? Who's your most exposed forward? I'm not playing the slate tonight. I don't have an update. I am cooking dinner for my wife. So unfortunately, I cannot help you out on that one. John Bryant, top play on each position on DraftKings. I think that's pretty quick to go through. Jared Vanderbilt for sure. Malik Beasley for sure. Dennis Schroeder for sure. That's point guard, shooting guard, power forward to a degree. To me, it's Dort at small forward.
Sure.
And then based on ownership, it's Claxton at center. If you want to say that it should be Vanderbilt at center and you want to take like Giannis at power forward, that's fine too. Or Giannis at center, I guess.
Yeah. I think, yeah. So like Vanderbilt power forward, Beasley shooting guard, Dort small forward, Schroeder point guard. What's that leave? Center?
Yeah. Giannis, Nick Claxton.
Yeah, like kind of a grab bag at center. I mean, Saric is the highest optimal percentage at center, but also feels pretty gross to say Saric is the best center.
I paced this one out so poorly today. It's incredible. I haven't hosted a show in a while. It feels bad. Pelicans, 1.5 dogs. We kind of got to go quick, and there's not much to say here. Zion's out. Larry Nance is out. Jose Alvarado's out. We got to wait on the Josh Richardson news and the Joe Val news. I think it's easy to say this. Like, if Joe Val ends up out, you're going to be very interested in both backup centers. You need the injury news, though, for the Pelicans right now. Like, it's really impossible to look at anything other than I think Brandon Ingram looks all right at 8,300.
Yeah, I think Brandon Ingram looks good regardless, but this is a really tricky spot because if Joe Val is out, Hernan Gomez and Hayes both look good. Whichever one starts, you would feel the best about, but whichever one's coming off the bench would be a good option as well. The problem is this is a 10 o'clock island game. So like, it's really risky to say like, oh, I'm going to just project Joval out, because you are absolutely screwed if he plays basically, and you have a ton of Jackson Hayes or, a lot of Hernan Gomez. Joval himself, I think, is a good tournament play if he's in. He's averaged 28 minutes per game without Nance this year, played about 24 last game. But, he's another one where he's getting 5% ownership at that same price point where Claxton's getting like 16. Makes me interested in Joval if he plays. I like whoever's starting at center for the Pels. We just need an injury report for that. If Richardson's out, I don't think it has as big of an impact. You would just be getting more minutes for a lot of guys that don't matter too much. But yeah, Brandon Ingram looks good one way or the other. McCollum's fine one way or the other. The center position, though, whoever's starting, I like.
I don't have enough time to talk about it, but I think Hayes is going to play over Willy Hernan Gomez. Willy Hernan Gomez can't guard Dame in a pick and roll. Hayes is their only shot for a defensive standpoint here. So
and we saw Hayes last game too. So it's not like you're like pulling something out of thin air.
Now, if Joval plays, or if Joval doesn't play, they're both playing. But if Joval plays, I think it's Hayes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And then finally for Portland, we got the news that Anthony Simons is questionable. Still no Nurk or Winslow or Arcidiacono. It's basically impossible to say anything here. But if Anthony Simons is in, I assume we're not getting to all that much from Portland. And if he's out, to me, it's Dame, maybe a little Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, if he's in, like, you can still get to some Dame just because it's still Dame. But, like, he's overpriced for Anthony Simons to be in. He's a good play if Simons is out. You're talking about, around 40% usage rate, 38% assist percentage, playing huge minutes. So the Simons news is really big. But again, it's a difficult spot because I guess you kind of just have to assume Simons is playing at this point, even though I kind of think it's unlikely. Like, I just didn't expect him to be on, back being questionable this quickly. So I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't want tons of Dame if Simons is in. If he's out, I would like a lot of him, but we're probably just not going to have this news.
Anything else you want to touch on?
Nope.
Thank you guys for joining us. Go absolutely nowhere. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. Hit that like button in the interim. Hang out for a second. The boys are going to take you all the way up until lock. Good luck tonight, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Thank you to No House Advantage, by the way.
Yo, it's that time of week again where we are inducting you fine people into the Stokastic Hall of Fame, doing all the bragging for you so you don't have to do it yourself. To all these thousands of people watching right now. And of course, giving out free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum, every single sport for the entire month, $120 value right here on the Hall of Fame. And all you got to do to get involved, download the avatar at stokastic.com/avatar. And if you're EMAC, download the new one on Yahoo, man. Come on now. And use it wherever you play. DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, No House Advantage, Prize Picks. Doesn't matter where it is. Use it. And when you win, finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, or just have a big hit and you want to show it off, tweet your wins at StokasticHOF. Get your free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum and get into the Hall of Fame. We kick it off this week with Avi. Man, Avi's had a couple nice wins recently. Honest Avi with $10,000. A very simple thanks, fellas, to Stokastic Hall of Fame. Huge win, man. Congratulations in that one. And actually, matter of fact, that was, one entry. One entry. Okay. Love it. Third out of 30,000 people for Avi. And Jake Hari coming up next. Our own Jake Hari had a bunch of New Jersey 2, PP1, all that good stuff stacks last night, which put me in a good spot to get lucky with one of the few Gibson Duck stacks in my crunch. 5,000 for Jake. He just punched the ticket to the live final recently as well. Arnold took down another one. Thank you guys. $2,000 in the college basketball big jam, followed up by our own Pete McCarthy, $20,000. Again, man, change that avatar, brother, but still $20K in the fantasy millionaire and NASCAR millionaire. Congrats to Pete. And EMAC, $4,000. Come on, EMAC. Celebration begins in the wee hours of the morning. That daily NBA DFS building blocks article is still somehow free. Yes, his article, a popular one, free every day at Stokastic.com. Seems like a must read. He said, we'll sell some self-promotion from EMAC, but I appreciate it. And Professor, nice little afternoon pump using the Stokastic NBA brains. Huge, $1,000, second place in the NBA shot, followed up by Rod Dog? Rod Dog would make a lot more sense there. Second time in the Hall of Fame. Thanks, Stokastic. $690 win. And Arnold back in the same day on this one. I had a good weekend. Thank you guys. 200, 532, 100. Some big wins for Arnold coming in twice. And Laura Cope, I don't always play PGA DFS, but when I do, I am in a twosome with Stokastic, and this is how I approach the green. Thanks. $100 win. First place in the dime. Not easy to win that one. A lot of entries. Philip Still, thank you guys for the great content. Not a big hit, but 17 in the 617 isn't bad. Thanks, Lafayette and Josh, for the insight. You're damn right, man. Congratulations. And Mitchell W. King. Always enjoyable and informative information to listen to Eric and Greg on Live Before Lock. First place in the quarter jukebox. And you guys know, doesn't matter if it's a nickel, a quarter, a dime, as long as you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, you're getting up here and you're getting the free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. John Harbison, we want to give a big shout out to the whole family. Stokastic Hall of Fame. You guys are running the show and bringing folks along with you. Third place in the high five, $500. And finally, Michael Diaz, double OT, and a field goal made from Kawhi or Fox knocked me out of first. Late swapping to 7% Isaiah Joe made the difference. Thanks for the content. 150, third place in the mini max. Remember, stokastic.com/avatar. Download it. Use it anywhere. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF, and we'll see you back here next week.
I thought you were going to forget to count down for a second there. What is going on, everybody? Jordan with the emphatic countdown by, he never actually got to 0. He just flipped me off and then we started the show. But there's no way that I'd rather be starting a Wednesday night NBA show than getting flipped off by the one and only Jordan Klein. So as you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and shout out to No House Advantage, who is going to be sponsoring our show today. Also, as Joe Lacatz has pointed out in the YouTube chat, it is not just Nerd Ass Greg here, but it also is the flannel god, Neil Orfield. So no Eric today. He was on our new betting show, which is on the Odd Shopper channel. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, number one, go subscribe to our Odd Shopper channel, but also go check that out. Weekdays, 4 to 5 Eastern time, breaking down all of the information you need to play some profitable sports bets. But in the meantime, the flannel god is here with me in his XFL hat, much like a diehard XFL fan. Neil, do you have a favorite XFL team, by the way, or just wear the XFL hat?
I've been really mulling it over. I think I've landed on the San Antonio Brahmas. I just really like Hines Ward as a coach. Like, he's just so enthusiastic, seems to love being there. It's kind of a fun team. Yeah, I was thinking Sea Dragons because, you know, I love dragons in general. That's kind of a running bit between me and Shrek 4224 because he doesn't like Game of Thrones. He can't watch a TV show with dragons. And I'm like, no, dragons they're cool and also not a huge part of the show. So I was thinking the Dragons, but I think I've flipped to the San Antonio Brahmas, probably my favorite team. But also the over under was set at like 40 seconds for when the name Chris Dunn was going to be mentioned on this show. Of course, I think it was set with the idea that Eric Lindquist was going to be on the show to victory lap his Chris Dunn fade. Sadly, Eric's not here. So I'm just going to give a shout out to Eric and Greg and Adam for everybody who talked about Chris Dunn yesterday. Was kind of like, he seems like he might be bad chalk. And yeah, he was bad chalk. He still like arguably almost got there just because Agbaji got injured in the third quarter. So he ended up getting extra playing time, but you know, not a great play. So I'd say that was a great call.
Yeah, and ended up not really meaning that much to me. I had a very neutral slate. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad either. So, you know, not always the worst thing in GPPs, though. If you just kind of break even, you live to fight another day, which is what we have today, and lots of injuries to break down. One of them, too, I'm like Charlie Brown trying to kick the football when it comes to Joel Embiid, because so many times I see him get added to the injury report, Neil, and I think today's the day that he's going to sit. And once again, I tend to think today could be the day that he ends up sitting, playing the Miami Heat again. They're on the road. Embiid has been, you know, pretty frequently hurt over the course of his career. And I do think it's in the Sixers' best interest to sit him at some point. down the stretch of the season. We saw last year, they've really played him a ton of minutes to try to push for the MVP. And then he got hurt as soon as the playoffs started. I think he might rest today, but is this going to be another Charlie Brown getting the football pulled out from him? And then we just find out 5 minutes before the slate starts that he is going to play?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, they just announced again that he's a game time decision. So
yeah.
I feel like it's a true questionable here, but what do I know? It's Joel Embiid. Does Doc Rivers know? Like, I'm not confident that Doc Rivers has any idea. Glenn
I don't know.
Yeah,
he's
I forget that you don't acknowledge him as a doctor. Glenn Rivers doesn't know. Jordan Klein. Yeah. How about me dragging D's? That's funny. That's Jordan Klein. Flips you off, giving me the D's nuts jokes. Yeah, I have no idea what to do with Joel Embiid. I think if Joel Embiid is out, where are we going? I mean, it's Harden, I guess, would become they're playing Miami. So like, it's still not going to be like a sure thing that even Harden is a great play against Miami. Maybe B-Ball Paul gets into that. Would B-Ball Paul be starting or Montrezl Harrell?
It's tough. They do different things on different games. Like, I would still be playing James Harden on both FanDuel and DraftKings because he gets a pretty big boost when we see Joel Embiid off the court. And that's still something I'm going to be interested in at the depressed price point. I know that James Harden is not the same fantasy player that he was a few years ago, but remember, it used to be James Harden whenever he played with a star. If that star was out, James Harden's price would rise to like 13,000 or something like that.
And he was worth it.
Yeah. So still, he's somebody that I'd want to be getting to if Joel Embiid is out. But yet in the front court, I really don't know what they would do. It could be, I think this would be more of a Montrezl Harrell matchup going up against the size of Bam Adebayo. But I don't have like a 100% confidently. Now, I do know I would like whoever starts at center in that scenario.
Yeah, I agree with that. Whoever starts, but that's a long ways. When is that game? When is that lock? That locks at
7:30 Eastern time. So I mean,
so we'll get it by the end of the show.
It's not right at lock, but it's 30 minutes after. But where this now, the question I always ask when it comes to these kind of scenarios, the Joel Embiid news. Let's say we go into the 7 p.m. Eastern time lock, and he's still listed as questionable. Is there anybody who would still feel like we need to play from the first two games of the slate? Or do we want to give ourselves a little bit more flexibility? Because reading off the injury report, it's not just Joel Embiid that's questionable. In addition, Jonas Valanciunas is questionable. Josh Richardson is questionable. So that could open up a whole bunch of value from the New Orleans Pelicans. We've got Kevin Porter Jr. questionable. The Rockets are kind of priced for his absence now. And then another big one, Anthony Simons is questionable. If he comes back, I think that really puts a dent into the massive usage Damian Lillard has had as of late. But considering the first couple of games are pretty clean on the injury report, is there anybody you're looking at from those spots and being like, I need to get to players from the first two games before we head into some of the news that starts to break?
I think I'm probably going to want to get to some Terry Rozier. Like, he's just with LaMelo Ball out, I think he's going to see a bump in usage. He projects really well for 7,200. So I would say he's probably the biggest priority for me of the first two games. Maybe a little bit Alex Caruso at 3,400. We haven't projected for playing 28 minutes tonight, a little over 21 fantasy points. That's not like a must have, when we have value potentially opening up, I think you might be fine fading Alex Caruso, but he's a guy who can put up fantasy points from time to time in a nice matchup with Detroit. So I think Caruso is somebody I would consider playing. Who else? I mean, maybe some Gordon Hayward. I don't know. There's no real, I'd say the biggest priority for me is Terry Rozier. After that, there's nobody that I'm like dying to play from these first two games. Do you see anybody that you really want to play here?
It's got to be Rozier for me. And let me pull up the on-off court numbers for him. But I think he's pretty clearly one of the top plays on the slate. FanDuel and DraftKings, play him in tournaments, play him in cash games. He's going to be popular, but it's more than warranted. I don't think I've ever seen this before. LaMelo Ball broke his ankle on a non-contact play. He was just dribbling, made a cut, his ankle gave out. I think he's probably been dealing with, and I'm not any kind of medical professional or doctor here, but I've just never seen somebody's ankle just break like that. I have to think he had some sort of hairline fracture that had just been existing there, because he's missed, how many times he rolled an ankle and got hurt this year? 4, 5 leading up to this one. And I just wonder if it was a thing where this has been an underlying issue for him and they may have brought him back too quickly a couple of times from those ankle injuries, also might have contributed to him continually getting hurt. And it's just been ramping up that. And he played like a career high in minutes over a 3-game stretch, where you and I had talked about that. We were doing one of those NHA shows and we were talking about props, and NHA sponsor here today. If you guys want to sign up, use the link below, up to $100 bonus on your first deposit. But we were talking about LaMelo and all the minutes he had been playing. I have to think that's somewhat related to the injury. But that aside, Terry Rozier to me is one of my favorite plays on the slate. And before I was just talking about, I wanted to pull up the numbers for him this year with LaMelo off the court, and pretty big sample size because LaMelo has been hurt a good amount this year. Rozier in his own right has been hurt a decent amount, also has dealt with some ankle issues. But Rozier this year, usage rate north of 30% when we've seen no LaMelo on the court. He scores about 40 fantasy points per 36 minutes. So Rozier is unavoidable to me, but there's nothing else I would look at and say, like, I have to get to them in the first couple games.
Yep, I feel the exact same way. We do have Isaiah Livers out, so maybe Hamidou Diallo gets the start. He was kind of, I actually had a ton of Hamidou Diallo in the last game and was very lucky with the Isaiah Livers injury. It was kind of similar to last night with Chris Dunn. I feel like we kind of lucked out, but now with Isaiah Livers out, he's probably going to get the start. Do we have the starting lineup? Because his projection appears to have dropped pretty drastically from where we had him earlier.
But yeah, for who?
Hamidou Diallo for Detroit.
We do not have a starting lineup yet, I don't think. Let me just double check that. Lineups yet. Actually, we don't have any starting lineups for anybody today yet.
Okay. Well, then maybe somebody will pop up from Detroit. But yeah, currently, I don't think there are any priorities outside of Rozier.
Some news right now. Kevin Porter Jr. will play, but will be on a minutes limit. Here's what basically that does. It takes him out of consideration. Everybody else on the Rockets looks worse as well because they've been priced up for his absence. So Rockets basically, to me, a no-go now that we have that news on Kevin Porter Jr. And let's start answering some of these super chats that have come in, starting with Sir Ruin of House Roundhead. My team is the Defenders in the XFL. I'm going to their game Sunday against the Battlehawks. Will love to see you two do XFL content. Well, I am fairly confident I couldn't do anything related to XFL. I don't know any of the players. But Neil owns XFL apparel, and you can see how diehard he is based on him, Rob Lowe-esque with the XFL hat.
That's right.
So, Sir Ruin of House Roundhead, are the Defenders any good? And are they a good defensive team? If they're not, this seems like a mistake.
Yeah, so I am not fully up to date on all my teams. To be honest, I know like individual players, but I'm like, what player is that? What team is that player on? I'm like, I'm not, to be honest, as diehard as I make myself out to be sometimes. I don't believe the DC Defenders are that great defensively. Like they're not one of the teams that I target in terms of DFS defenses, but maybe they're okay. I thought about choosing the Defenders as my team because my sister-in-law and her husband live in DC, so there's a better chance that we're going to actually like visit and go to a game in DC than anywhere else. So I thought maybe they're another team I considered, but I just the Brahmas, I want people to ask me what are Brahmas, and honestly, I couldn't even tell you right now, but I want that to be a thing that I know and that people can ask me and I can sound smart.
There you go. Well, yeah, I mean, anytime you can impress people with your XFL knowledge, that's a whole nother level that you're taking it to. We got a question here from Jose Morales. Says he got a free ticket from DraftKings for the showdown slate between Boston and Cleveland. Help me with a good lineup. Where were they giving away tickets to a random showdown contest? But here, I'm going to run lineups for that right now, and I'll tell you what comes up. So Cleveland, Boston. I'll upload projections into this. This is not one of the things I was expecting to get questions about today, Neil. I did not think.
Was not prepared.
And I've noticed that we do from time to time get questions about the later showdown games. But here's what happened. Ever since we started getting questions and I started to catch on to it and be like, I should run showdown lineups for the main slate showdown contest before the contest lock so I can answer people's questions. I've just started to get showdown questions about other showdown games that are not the main one at the end. And it has all been for naught. But here, I'm running lineups right now. I won't set any rules or anything, but I'll just run lineups. And for
apparently
Jose's
everybody
question,
in chat knew that a Brahma is a bull or a breed of cow. Everybody already knew that. So maybe I won't say, maybe I just sound dumb because I admitted that I don't know what a Brahma is.
You just show up, be like, hey, you guys ever heard of a cat? You're like, you try to impress people like you're a 6-year-old. I know what a cow is. I'm like, yeah, good for you. I know horse. Like, yeah, okay, good job, Neil. Good for you. By the way, some lineups that I ran for Jose here. The captains I got to most frequently were Jason Tatum and Donovan Mitchell. Then in the utility spot, the players I got to most frequently, Darius Garland, Ricky Rubio. And Ricky Rubio is just one of those ones who pops up more in a showdown contest because he's so cheap. Like you never consider him on the main slate, but you just need salary savings at some point. Robert Williams and Karis LeVert, the other players that popped up. What is that?
Showing Eric Johnson. He was asking if this is a spotted cow. This is an East Lake brewery. It's a local brewery. It's East Lake. They deliver THC drinks, which the liquor stores here have stopped carrying THC drinks recently. So that was kind of a bummer, but local brewery East Lake will deliver THC drinks. So I ordered some THC drinks and some beers. And this is a dark beer from East Lake.
I don't know what Eric Johnson does with his days, but he'll message us during the show and be like, hey, I'm really drunk right now. Should I play 100% Sam Hauser? It's like, I'm just curious what Eric's day-to-day activities are. It seems like he just wakes up, gets drunk, and finds the most obscure players he could possibly find a roster in DFS, and then just puts them in all of his lineups.
And sometimes they work out really well, like Sam Hauser.
I appreciate the I definitely appreciate the respect to the drunken hustle and play random DFS players grind that he's on. And it never stops. Every day he's here.
Absolutely.
Some more super chats. This one, got a bunch of them coming in here. All right, I'll scroll up. Oh, no, some of those are from yesterday. Here we go. Okay, so rest of the questions here is from Benjamin Riley. Greg, you bring great energy to the show. Neil, you're the man. Thanks for the great content and entertainment. But not a question. Not a question. He's just
thank you. It's really
just
nice.
leaving some support.
Appreciate it.
My filler arc, Trey Murphy, Malik Beasley, or Isaiah Joe. Well, I'll tell you, that Oklahoma City Thunder rotation is a nightmare to predict right now. They do not give a shit if they win games or not.
I noticed Dario Saric really jumped in the projections today. And what's the reasoning there? Was somebody new ruled out recently?
He just played. It's so difficult to. So, like, on one hand, I get it. He played a bunch of minutes yesterday, and on some hand, you kind of have to use recent rotations to try to guess minutes.
Right.
But boy, has it been difficult chasing minutes for OKC. It's different guys who get minutes every day. It's so, and individually, so many players on that team have upside. So many of them.
Right.
Like if you tell me Isaiah Joe is a big game today, if you tell me Dario Saric does again, if Josh Giddey played 19 minutes yesterday. It's and they're all relatively hard to know the minutes
outside of. I mean, even Giddey, like they're all relatively cheap, or a lot of them are relatively cheap for their upside. But yeah, like you say, it's just so unpredictable. It's kind of like Adam and I were talking about the Nets yesterday. Like this new Nets team, they don't have a superstar. They've got a lot of good players and a lot of players who day to day, one of them is probably going to have a good game. It's just really hard to predict who it's going to be. I'd say this is kind of a similar situation. Obviously, Giddey is by far the likeliest to have a big game, and probably if you're only playing one, he's the first place I'd usually go. But Saric right now projects really well for us. He's actually our top value of the day.
But anyway, the question for my filler arc was Trey Murphy, Malik Beasley, or Isaiah Joe.
So Beasley is the best value, has the best value score of the. He's also projected for 59% ownership. So Beasley probably the one that I don't know, maybe want in the most lineups. And then it was after Beasley, it was Isaiah Joe and Trey Murphy.
Yeah, he just wanted to know which one to play of the three, though, and it's going to be Beasley for me. If you just look at the situation for the Lakers heading into tonight, we knew LeBron was going to be out. I don't even think LeBron's going to play again this season, to be honest. He's very banged up right now. Unless the Lakers are able to keep their head above water during the time he's out, it seems like he's dealing with some sort of torn plantar fascia injury, which could really linger. So I think that LeBron is, unless the Lakers are able to go on a run without him, I just don't think he plays again this year.
What about the stat chasing, though? Like, that's the only reason that I can see LeBron.
So what is there to chase? He's already the leading scorer.
I don't know. Put a gap there between, there are going to be people chasing him.
He'll play
there's probably other records that he can. Yeah, I know. He said he's going to play for 5 more years. Wasn't that his latest? He thinks he can play for 5 more years, but
that might have been before his one reason. That might have been before his latest injury. But
true.
And it's not just him that's out for the Lakers now. D'Angelo Russell is out. Anthony Davis is out. So there's all this playing time, usage, opportunity available for this team. The Lakers are the best value spot on the slate, and Malik Beasley is going to be my answer there for you, my filler arc. I think he's a really good option. Abby Schreier is asking us a FanDuel question. He wants to know, Brown, I assume that is Jaylen Brown, DeRozan, Ingram, or Bridges on FanDuel. Let me go check the FanDuel lineups that I've made, and the players are once again Brown, DeRozan, Ingram, or Bridges. All right.
It's like Ingram projects the best.
Ingram. I am going to say Brandon Ingram. His usage has been so high in recent games, and there's a couple reasons for this. It's not just that Zion's out and Ingram's healthy, but also we got to report McCollum's dealing with an injury on his hand that he's playing through. I think that's definitely limiting him a little bit, and more of the offense is going through Ingram. So Ingram is going to be my answer there.
Plus, if J-Val sits, I mean, just
that's
more
true
usage.
As well. And Richardson could sit.
Yeah.
Steven Eckelman, DK contrarian play idea with a Joe Val questionable tag. What do you think of Lillard plus Jackson Hayes? And then if Joe Val is in, swap them for CJ McCollum and Joe Val, hoping no Simons. Yeah, I think if Simons plays, I think Lillard's going to go over own tonight. Yeah. And I'm kind of hoping that's the case because I'm not playing very much Lillard. And we've seen the kind of upside that Lillard has had as of late. But Lillard's like close to a peak price point. And he's also priced for Simons being out. So I'm banking on Simons playing right now. As for what you said, Jackson Hayes, I think, would look better if Joe Val is out for sure. But the other thing, too, is you don't have to lock them into your lineup right now.
Right.
I mean, I understand it's a later. Actually, you might have to. It's a 10 o'clock start time. We should talk about that, actually, relative to Steven's question. It's so New Orleans, Portland starts at 10 p.m. Eastern time. The game before that, the closest lock time to, we've got 3 games at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So in all likelihood, we're not going to know whether Jonas Valanciunas and Josh Richardson are going to be playing or not by the time all the other games lock. Is there anything you're going to do for preparation for that, or anything on your mind in terms of how you are going to approach that scenario? Because there is definite potential for value plays to be there that the field is just not going to be on, per Steven's question. For a second, I said, well, you could just kind of react as the news comes out. But then I caught myself, and because you can't really do that based on the start time of the game.
Yeah, it's tough because we have three centers for the Pelicans who, to me, are all interesting depending on who gets to start. Like, no matter which Pelican center gets to start, I'm going to have interest. So I think it's really hard to make up contingency plans going in. And sometimes I think sometimes I think it's a mistake to overly plan on contingencies just because if you like say if you're playing Guillermo Hernangomez, require that you have at least one other player from that game. I think that can be something that you're going to be pigeonholing yourself into combos that a lot of other people have, and you're going to possibly be missing out on some better values from earlier games when you do that. So I typically don't actually do the thing that is often suggested. And I think it's generally it's good advice, but not something that I always necessarily do, where you say, if I play Guillermo Hernangomez, I'm going to require at least one other player from this game so that I can swap. I understand the move, and I think it's a really smart idea, but I don't always do it just because I think you can also lock yourself out of some of the better value in earlier games potentially by doing that. So for me, all I'm going to give boost to all 3 of these centers actually, and I'm going to say at most one of the 3, J-Val, Guillermo Hernangomez, and Jackson Hayes. And then once we get the starting lineup, I'm going to do my best to optimize at that point. I will be, if J-Val plays any lineup that I have that's starting Guillermo Hernangomez and doesn't have a backup plan, it's obviously going to be in the hole. It's not a great spot to be in if you're making a lineup, assuming a guy's going to be starting and he's not starting. But we're trying to win first place in these contests. And I think sometimes the best way to do that is to take risks like that. So I will be just taking some risks. I also think currently Guillermo Hernangomez with J-Val in still looks like a pretty good value. So I think you could just make lineups that have Guillermo Hernangomez in them. And frankly, even if J-Val plays, he's going to look good. And if J-Val is out, he's obviously going to look like a smash, assuming that he starts. So I think that is the approach I'm going to take. I also, who's the more expensive of Jackson Hayes and okay, so it is Guillermo Hernangomez. Jackson Hayes is 3,000. So you could pivot down to Hayes if Hayes ends up starting. I don't hate the idea of just playing a lot of Guillermo Hernangomez again, because he projects well enough for us. He's 5.7x value currently. We have him projected for 18 minutes and 22 fantasy points at 3,800. He looks fine currently, and he'll look like a smash if he ends up starting. So I guess what it comes down to for me is I'm going to be playing some lines. I'm probably just leaving out Jackson Hayes for now, and then I'll switch it up if he starts. So for now, it's just going to be, I'm going to give bumps to both Guillermo Hernangomez and J-Val, and I'm going to say at most one of the 2.
It's so tough because Hernangomez was a DNP coach's decision last game. Like, I don't even know if he's going to play minutes.
Well, that's why he needs to get the start. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if we get the news and it's Jackson Hayes starting, I'm just going to pivot all of my Hernangomez lineups to Jackson Hayes. Yeah.
So we'll see what ends up happening with those guys. Once again, later on in the day, how risk adverse you want to be. And who knows, maybe we get that news in an hour or so. But guys, also stick around because 30 minutes after lock, we'll be doing our usual post-lock show, Neil and myself. And then even afterwards, if the news breaks, we've got all the tools covered for you over at Stokastic.com. And if you guys haven't signed up yet, any package you want, anything at all that when you sign up for the first time, using the link we have below is going to get you 50% off, whether it's our NBA package, or if you're somebody who wants to sign up for a platinum pass because you're playing multiple DFS sports, sign up using our link below, 50% off any package. All right, let's hit on.
Josh, sorry,
sorry, go
Greg,
ahead.
could I just amend really quickly? So somebody was saying that Josh was saying that it seems more likely that Jackson Hayes will start. I kind of want to amend what I said and say maybe we just take that. Like, it's more risky to assume that Jackson Hayes starts as opposed to Guillermo Hernangomez, but it's also the payout will be bigger. And, I'm seeing a lot of people thinking that Hernangomez, if we think that Jackson Hayes is the likelier start, even though he's less expensive and you're not going to be able to pivot up in most lineups, I don't hate the idea of just making, it's a much bigger risk, but I don't hate the idea of just making lineups with Jackson Hayes, assuming that he's starting too.
Yeah, no, you could, and also, let's see, how many minutes did Jackson Hayes play last game? Jackson Hayes last game he still played 25 minutes last game. So yeah, you could get 25 minutes out of Jackson Hayes, and even if Valanciunas plays, potentially doesn't kill you. Whereas if Valanciunas plays, Hernangomez, good chance he plays 0 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, my preference would be Jackson Hayes right now. I just think it's a little bit easier in terms of the flexibility of lineups. Some teams with some difficult minutes to figure out at this point of the season, but Jackson Hayes would be my preference. Corey Shea, best guard 3,600 and under. So just in general, any guard 3,600 and under. Let me select all the teams because I only have the Pelicans that I'm looking at in front of me right now. All right, all guards.
Would it be Caruso?
Devin Vassell probable tomorrow. 3,600. I'm looking. It's on bigger slates. There's always more scrolling to go through. It is Caruso for me, and I'm also not really rostering him.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's anybody that you'd like who's in a later game, so that just for the Trey Mann looks like he projects okay. Not somebody that I really want to. Just in terms of projection, it's going to be Caruso. The only downside is you're locking him in at lock.
Yeah. Like, if I have to pick somebody, it's going to be Caruso. But Corey, if I'm being honest with you, I would say don't play anybody in that price range. Nobody looks good to me. Who is the cheapest guard? So the cheapest guard I have exposure to today is Austin Reeves, and he's $200 up from that price point, $3,800 for Austin Reeves. If you can make the wiggle room to get up to Reeves, I would say him. But if not, I don't really like anybody for that cheap. All right, next question is from Jorge Giacomi. Favorite pay-up guys for today and favorite contrarian players. Thanks, guys, and an honor having Neil today. Of course, it's always an honor having Neil around, the flannel guy.
Thank you, Jorge.
Favorite contrarian players, favorite pay-up. So let's do pay-up first. Giannis is the pay-up option I'm getting to the most. I think, well, at least I'm hoping we get a little bit more extended minutes. I know only played 28 minutes last game, his first time back. I think we could see more out of him. The other thing, too, is we have close to unlimited value today. We've got a lot of good points per dollar players. I didn't find it that difficult to get up to Giannis. I prefer paying up for him than I do paying up for Damian Lillard. So Giannis is my most rostered pay-up option. How about yourself? Who is the expensive player getting the most exposure to?
All right, let's see. So currently, where do we draw the line at pay up?
I know Jorge's asked us this question before, and he usually says players over 10K. By the way, I'm going to add one quick amendment. It is Giannis. I think it would be Harden if Embiid is ruled out. Okay.
So Ja Morant is 9,900. So if you included 9,900, it would be Ja Morant after Ja. So, and this is currently also, I'm actually getting to a good amount of Damian Lillard currently, which I'm a little bit scared of, but I also am planning on playing a good amount of Jackson Hayes. So I can adjust if Anthony Simons is in. Yeah, I think I'll stick with Lillard right now and adjust if Anthony Simons is ruled in.
No issues for me. Once again, and different players come with different risks, right? Lillard is if Simons plays, does he lose out on some usage? Giannis is he going to have a minutes restriction? The other thing too that I'm thinking though, there's potential for massive upside for Giannis because we know there's no Chris Middleton today. And if Giannis sees his minutes lifted, like he's not all that popular. It's sub 20% ownership going to Giannis. So that is going to be my guy. That's where I'm rolling the dice. And then the other part of Jorge's question is favorite contrarian players. I mean, the answer to that is still kind of Giannis for me, because I guess it also depends like what we're really considering contrarian, but Giannis is sub 20%. Let's see, other low-owned players that I'm getting to. I have some exposure to Jalen Williams. That's Jalen Williams with a Y on Oklahoma City. I think he serves as a pretty good pivot off of Dario Saric, who's going to be massively popular. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to have Saric exposure as well, but Jalen Williams, I think, is a pretty good pivot. He's only projected for 4% ownership, so that's where I'm going to answer. How about yourself? Favorite contrarian play?
Yeah, like we actually have Mo Bamba at under 10% ownership right now. I'm going to be playing a good amount of Mo Bamba. He's 3,500. We're projecting him for just 21 minutes, but 25 fantasy points. Looks pretty good at 3,500. So do you have any read on the J-Val situation? Because I'm going to love Jackson Hayes if J-Val is out. And it feels like almost a toss-up to me, but am I misreading the situation? Is J-Val like 90% likely to play in your opinion?
I think it's 50-50.
Yeah,
I think if this was earlier in the season, he'd be more likely to sit. The problem is we now have, what do they have? 20 games left, I think it is, and they're fighting for a play-in spot. There's just not that much wiggle room which is why I also like looked at what the Lakers are doing and kind of seems like them waving the red flag to an extent. 20 games left. The Lakers are the 12th seed in the West, and they're holding AD out today in the addition. But the Pelicans are 10th in the West right now. Only the top 10 teams make it into the play-in game. If Jonas Valanciunas is able to play, if Josh Richardson is able to play, I think they're going to give it a go, just considering where they are in the standings. So I still think it's 50-50 because he might actually be hurt. And if you can't play, you can't play.
Right.
But that I don't have, long story short, I don't have like a definitive, really strong lean on the scenario.
Yeah, stuff because, again, whoever is starting at center for the Pelicans, I would say is going to be one of my favorite contrarian plays, but we just don't know who that's going to be right now.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And people, if we had that news right now that Valanciunas was out, Jackson Hayes would clearly be super popular.
Oh yeah, big time. 3,000.
So we'll see what ends up happening there. But it's a very reasonable risk to take. Like I said, for me, I like Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams with a Y. Mr. Cool Cam 97, top 5 players for FanDuel, single entry. Pull up back over to my FanDuel lineups because I was looking at DraftKings. Also, I'll get to some of the questions in Discord as well because we've got a bunch of those rolling in. But Neil, if we're looking at FanDuel, who are the top 5 players for a single entry? So, I mean, still, I think you're going to want some of the more popular players. Like, to me, Terry Rozier is unavoidable today, right? Like, I think you should be getting exposure to Terry Rozier. And then other guys, too, like Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, Dennis Schroeder, should be considering those guys as well. As for the other players, well, a lot of places we could go here. Giannis is not all that popular today. He's my favorite pay-up option. So I'm going to give him as my pay-up option go-to over on FanDuel. And once again, only project for 20% ownership. And you got a depressed price on FanDuel. 11.8 for Giannis. He's usually more expensive than that, particularly with Chris Middleton out. Anybody you'd be adding to the mix?
Yeah, so I mean, our 3 like top optimal plays on FanDuel are Beasley, Vanderbilt, and Schroeder from the Lakers. They're all 3 of our most negatively leveraged plays as well. Like they're going to be hugely chalky. I'd say play 1 to 2 of those 3, Beasley, Vanderbilt, and Schroeder, just because one of them, I mean, among them, we have about 100% likelihood that one of them ends up being optimal today, just using our optimal odds. So I'd say 1 of Beasley, Vanderbilt, Schroeder at max 2 probably you consider there. Josh Giddey looks good in terms of our optimal odds. Anthony Simons, actually, if he plays on FanDuel at 6,100, we have him project 24% chance of being optimal at 19% ownership. And I would guess that ownership is actually going to be a little bit lower just because he's questionable. But again, I'm not confident that he's going to play. Yeah, I think we covered it pretty well.
All right, but I'm very confused by people who show up to a YouTube show just to put like obscure racist comments in. Like this is how you're gonna spend your evening. So yeah, that guy has been booted from the chat. Very rarely do I boot people. Like I don't hide messages. I don't boot people. I don't censor anybody. but just absolute just nonsense. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Two things. Nonsense and then just spreading fake news in the chat for the sake of just say like random players are out when they're not.
Yeah.
Just don't be an asshole on the internet. Some more questions that we have here. Super chats. By the way, thank you guys very much for watching the show. If you haven't done it yet, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have Ryan Schindler asking us, is 5 Lakers too many for DK cash? Well, let's see. For a cash game, you for sure want Beasley. You for sure want Vanderbilt. You probably want Dennis Schroeder and Rui Hachimura. Who is the 5th one you're going with in cash?
Bamba. I mean, just looking.
I wouldn't play Bamba in cash.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of our top point per dollar plays on the slate, so that might be who he's thinking. But yeah, it'd probably be Beasley, Rui, Vanderbilt would be the 3.
And Schroeder. So I think you should play Vanderbilt, Beasley, Hachimura, and Schroeder in cash. I would not play another Lakers player in cash unless we find out like Bamba's starting.
Right. You see, we got some lineups.
Let's check those out.
Hornets lineup. We got Rozier, Oubre, Hayward. JT Thor is still starting alongside Mark Williams. Suns, I guess this is their first game with Durant, so it's Paul, Booker, Okogie, Durant, and Ayton. Beverly and Caruso, Levine, DeRozan, Vucevic starting for the Bulls. And then we got the Pistons lineup. Hayes, Ivy, Magruder, your husband, Bogdanovich, and Wiseman. And then the Cavs, Garland, Mitchell, Okoro, Mobley, Allen. No surprise there.
Yeah, there's, like I said, the Suns with Durant in right now, that takes pretty much all of them out of consideration.
Yeah.
The Pistons also, for me, I get that Wiseman's been really good points from a fantasy producer for them, but a lot of good center options on the slate. And then also, don't forget, we got Jaden Ivey and Bogdanovich back to the picture. So I don't really know what that's going to do with the center minutes. I don't really find any priorities from the Bulls. So outside of Terry Rozier, and I guess if you guys want to consider some of Kelly Oubre as well, I'd much rather have the lineup flexibility than try to go heavy for players in the early games.
Yep, agreed.
It's the way I'm going about it. The next question we have here, I know we had one from Ace of Spade. He wanted to know who my favorite players were for DK tiers. I've got tiers lineups run for you. Also, Jordan, could you just double check to make sure that there weren't any more super chats? Because I know I saw the one from Ace of Spade, but it wasn't in the list of ones that you sent me. I appreciate you and I love you very much. Don't get mad at me. He's not even making eye contact.
He's bad. I knew he was going to get mad.
Yeah. Oh, are they? Why did I? What is? Oh, you know what? I don't see it in there.
Jordan doesn't get mad. He gets even. Calling you out on your bullshit.
All right. I'll do that in a sec. But Ace of Spades question anyway, because I did see it. Tier 1, Giannis for me. Tier 2 is Ja Morant. Tier 3, Dr. J, Julius Randle. Tier 4 is Jalen Brunson. Tier 5, Brandon Ingram. Tier 6 is a tough one. It's Josh Giddey came out the best for me, but I'm scared shitless of Josh Giddey today. Like we'll talk about him in a second here because I'm curious to see what you're going to do within large field tournaments, Neil. But there's a bunch of guys out for OKC. The minutes have just not been there for Giddey. So to me, Giddey is the highest upside play. A little bit more safety in Mikal Bridges, Ace of Spades. So it depends what it is that you want to do with that in terms of how risk adverse you want to be. But what do you make of Josh Giddey today? I know we talked about it a little bit, but are you going to be playing him much in large field tournaments?
That's interesting. I had not looked at his recent minutes, and it's like every other game he plays over 30 minutes recently. It's like literally the past like 8 games he played 35 on February 7th, and then 28, and then 33, and then 25, and then 38, and then 24, and then 32. The most recent game he only played 20 minutes, and that was in a close game with Sacramento. So yeah, that does scare me a little bit. It's a great matchup with the Lakers. No Shea. Man, I don't know what to do there. I'm gonna lower my projection on him because right now I have 57% Giddey, and you are scaring me off a little bit. I'm still gonna play some. By
the way, my inclination is to just align myself about what the field on. Whatever the field's doing, I'll do it. He's not going to make or break me. That's how I feel about Josh Giddey. If he plays well, great. If he doesn't play well, also cool. Like, I just want to have the same amount as the field because I have no clue what to do with him. That's what I think is the reasonable way to approach him.
Yep, I think that's what I'm attempting to do as well.
By the way, I see what you're talking about now, Jordan. These questions, I thought they were from yesterday. That's where I got confused. That Jordan, he's always right. From Avi Schreier, my FanDuel locks are Schroeder, Reeves, Saric, and Oubre. Anyone to definitely keep. I wouldn't consider Oubre a lock today. And I get the upside given that he's starting, but once again, he is taking up a lineup spot. He's 6,400 over on FanDuel. He's a good play, but he's not somebody I'd consider a lock. I wouldn't consider Austin Reeves a lock either.
No, definitely not.
Locking Schroeder is totally fine, though. If that's a stand you want to take, I don't have an issue with that. Jamal Parker, who is your most exposed forward or guard? He's asking you, Neil. He's not asking me. He's asking you. I'll answer anyway, though, because I feel like I should. But my most exposed guard is, this is pretty chalky for me, but I think it makes sense. Guard is Beasley, forward is Vanderbilt.
Yeah, so I am adjusting things right now. I'm finally getting to my lineup, so I'm largely just playing what our projections gave me, but currently it would be Beasley and then Hachimura and then Vanderbilt for me.
Yeah, and it's I get they're really popular, but at their price points, it's so hard to avoid them. Everybody's out for the Lakers. They have so much opportunity. Yeah. I'll get different elsewhere.
Last night they kind of underperformed last night, but that was with Anthony Davis in. Now it's just so hard for these guys to fail. So I don't really see myself getting off too much on them.
Let's see.
That sounded funny, didn't it?
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's not necessarily Neil's type of guy to get off on. What is the guy that you'd be getting off on today? Any chalk players? Who am I getting off on today? Who's the chalk player you're looking to get off on today?
Ooh, chalk player. Okay, I was gonna go Jackson Hayes.
By the way, terminology aside, I mean by who is a chalk player you'd like to be underweight to the field on? That's what we're considering. That's
okay. I was totally gonna answer that the wrong way. Then I was gonna say
okay, yeah. You're just gonna say Kelly Oubre because he's the most handsome.
Yeah, obviously Kelly Oubre. All right, let's see.
It's who the eyes.
So now I'm getting lower from where I was on Giddey. Lillard. I'm even with the field on. Man, I'm really not. I'm eating the chalk, it looks like. Never. Okay. I had it sorted by point guard. I didn't realize that I was. All right. Hang on. Give me a second here.
While you do that, I'm going to really quickly answer some other questions. We got a bunch of them that came in. Joseph Corona, top 5 FanDuel cash options, 3 or 4 Lakers. For FanDuel, I would say you want to have Beasley, Vanderbilt, Schroeder, and Hachimura in cash. I'm cool with all of those guys. Dario Saric should also be in your cash lineup. Brandon Ingram, another one. And then Giannis, I said, is my favorite pay-up option today. So that is where I will go with that. Were you able to find who your most rostered guard and forward are?
Oh, yeah. So that question.
Sorry. What was the
chalk that I'm getting off on?
Yeah, right. That was the question.
So that's a tough question because we have some really good chalk. And then
some would say it's a hard question.
It is a hard question. The chalk I'm getting off on. Let's see. There's none, to be honest. So Giddey is the only one currently I'm below the field. I'm trying to match the field on Giddey, though. Everybody else, I'm even or above the field on the guys who are getting 20% plus ownership. So the answer is none, to be honest, right now. Even Lillard, right. I'm even with the field on. He's 16%. Just sorting by ownership, I'm about even with the field on Vanderbilt, over the field on Beasley, Hachimura, over the field on Rozier. Maybe I'll come down on. I think I'm actually going to come down off some of this, but I'm over the field. I'll probably cut back to about where the field is on Rozier. I see you laughing at my terminology again.
Yeah, this is my job. I'm a 6-year-old. What can you do about it? I'm wearing a Homer Simpson shirt. I'm wearing basketball shorts, and we're talking about who we're going to get off on. You're talking about who you're going to come down on. It's a whole ordeal trying to build DFS lineups. Next super chat is from Joseph Wilcox. Reeves and Rozier or Giddey and Lonnie Walker. That is Reeves and Rozier for me. And then my filler arc, Morant with blowout potential or Donovan Mitchell. I prefer Morant. How about yourself, Morant or Mitchell?
Yeah, Morant. I'm playing a lot of Ja Morant.
Cornell Granville. How many Lakers is too much? So a lot of times Neil and I will talk about how we don't want more than 3 players in the lineup. I'm cool with 4 Lakers today, though.
I'm setting my max at 3 just because it is such a big slate. But I think 4 is reasonable as well. I don't think we do have a lot of good value from the Lakers. So yeah, no issue with that. For me, I'm setting it at 3, but 4 I'd say is the cap.
The next question we have is from Corey Shea. Not Pat Bev. I am not rostering Patrick Beverley, especially because he's in the. So the biggest issue I have with Patrick Beverley, beyond the fact that he just kind of projects mediocre when there's a lot of good value options, is he's in the first game of the day. I don't want to roster somebody who's only okay that also has the first lock spot of the night when we might find out 15 minutes from now that Joel Embiid isn't playing today.
Yeah, I'm not playing Beverly. I am playing some Alex Caruso, but I mean Beverly's starting. He's fine, just not like a priority. So I don't think I'm getting any.
And that's, by the way, that's going to be the big news that we're waiting on. Just going to double check to make sure I don't look like an idiot because it didn't come out like a second ago or whatever. But yeah, we are waiting on Joel Embiid news. That's a big one. I think Joel Embiid could legitimately sit today. So if you guys are thinking about leaving in a few minutes, don't do it. Stick around. Neil and I are going to be here for 30 minutes after lock, and we are going to be talking about the Joel Embiid news whenever it comes out. Could be a biggie if he ends up not playing. Uploading my lineups right now.
I'm under the field on Lillard now, just FYI.
Okay.
So I got off on Lillard.
There you go. You like somebody who's loyal. I dig it.
That's right.
Yeah. Lillard's loyal. He's been stuck in Portland forever, doesn't want to leave. I like that in a man as well. Some questions from our Discord channel that I have been wanting to get to. We got so many super chats. Bossboro wants to know favorite centers on FanDuel. So if I go over to FanDuel and just sort by centers, Saric has center eligibility. He is certainly somebody that you'd want to be considering over there. I think by far he's the best center option over on FanDuel. Jaren Jackson Jr. has upside today. I like getting to him. Center's actually fairly weak on FanDuel because I get to right now a bunch of lineups have Valanciunas in them. I think Valanciunas is a really strong GPP play on FanDuel. He is $6,200, and we know about the players who are out for the team. If he plays, I love the upside of Valanciunas on FanDuel, but Saric and then Mo Bamba also, I think, is somebody who is a good contrarian option. I don't think he's going to end up being all that popular. Next question is from Ernie P. Top owned players at each position on DK. I think this is a good way to round up where we are at. So for me at point guard, Terry Rozier, John Morant, and Dennis Schroeder. At shooting guard, Michael Beasley, Terry Rozier also. Small forward, Brandon Ingram, and then just a bunch of dudes behind the Brandon Ingram, clearly number one. Power forward, Vanderbilt, Saric, Giannis, and Rui Hachimura. Center, Vanderbilt, Saric, and Giannis there as well. How about for you? Just a couple of your most rostered players at each position.
Yeah, so point guard, it is currently Rozier and Schroeder, and then John Morant. And then I should say James Harden, just because I bumped his projection in case Embiid is out. Shooting guard, Beasley, Rozier, Giddey. Small forward, Ingram, Dort, and Aaron Wiggins. Power forward, Vanderbilt, Rui, and Jackson Hayes, because I did give Hayes that big bump, hoping that J-Val is out. And then center, Vanderbilt, Hayes, and Dario Saric. And then Bob.
Right. Some more questions here. This one is from Ernie P. Thoughts on me having 0 out of 150 lineups of Saric. Plus, I know that the minutes are really volatile for the Oklahoma City Thunder, but Saric is only $3,200 on DraftKings. It is such a cheap price point that I still think there's not that much risk in a chalky Dario Saric when he's only $3,200. So I think 0% of him is super risky. I wouldn't advise that.
Yeah, it's definitely risky. I mean, if you've got a large enough bankroll that you can withstand, getting a 0 on tonight, then sure, go ahead. But it's definitely a risk that is not really entirely necessary. But Sharks can certainly fail.
Elder, can you grab your crystal ball and tell me what one of the dumbest coaches in the NBA will do? Why would you risk some lines on OKC again? They've got players out. SGA is out. Kenrich Williams is out. And they've just got guys who are really cheap. So that's I think they've got Dario Saric is only 3,200, like I said before. There's enough upside in some of these players, like a Jalen Williams, like a Dario Saric, that I'm still okay taking chances on them. We've got the next question from Steve G. Can you rank the studs tonight? So the pay up options that I have the most exposure to are Giannis, John Morant, and kind of trying to consider what price point we're considering. I'll just say Giannis 1, John Morant 2 for me. If you're going a little bit cheaper, then guys like Ingram and Terry Rozier would be in that mix as well. There are $7,200 for Terry Rozier on ZK, $8,300 for Ingram. How about you? If you're ranking your favorite pay-up options on the slate, where are you going?
Yeah, so I have a good amount of Giannis and Embiid currently, and actually James Harden. I think that I should maybe set a rule, max one of Harden or Embiid, because I don't think I'm going to play much Harden if Embiid is in. So maybe I'll set that rule. But I kind of like if Embiid is in, I'm going to have some interest in Embiid at 9% ownership. If Embiid is out, I'm going to have some interest in James Harden. So either one of those guys works. But yeah, currently it's going to be Giannis is somebody I'm definitely interested in. Lillard depends on Anthony. We really have a lot of like contingent high end plays here, like who depends on who is in and who's out. But if you include Ja Morant, he is my most exposed player, close to 10,000 or above.
And Lippy, I'm getting 50%. Embiid is my crazy play at 10% owned. Am I wrong? I wouldn't say you're wrong. Obviously we need to wait for 15 minutes to see if he's playing.
Yeah.
So that's going to be key. Miami High Life, top 3 small forwards for DKGPP. I mentioned these before, but so to me, it's Ingram number 1. I don't have anybody else who I love at small forward on ZK behind Ingram. Is there anybody else you're getting like a significant amount of exposure at the small forward spot?
I'm getting a lot of Lou Dort, which I didn't do anything to do that. That's just he projects well enough that he made it into a lot of my lineups at a position where, like you said, there's just not anybody that's that great. Tatum, I'm getting around 17%. Tari Eason, 13%. So yeah, nobody that I'm getting like crazy exposure to here.
And then final question is from Supak. He wants to know Matisse Thybulle or Lonnie Walker on FanDuel. For FanDuel purposes, that's Matisse Thybulle. He's so much better as a FanDuel scorer than DraftKings because of the defensive stats. So that's the way I would go. And then finally, Ryan Schindler wants to know, can you tap Mo Bamba in or of... All right, let's see. Can you tap Mo Bamba in or of Eric? You're going to have to retype that. I'm not exactly sure. I know it's some sort of sexual innuendo. I'm not sure what it's supposed to read, though.
But the answer is yes, for sure.
Yeah, of course I could do it. Of course I could. Well, I don't know. He's a large man. I'm a little bit of a tinier fella. It could, like the actual geometry of it and just the Tetris pieces could cause issues. So who's to know? But Ryan, yeah, rephrase that and maybe I could get a clear answer. Also, somebody in chat had asked me before if I would grow the Dario Saric mustache if he scores less than 20 fantasy points today. I can't. Number one, I physically can't, but also point 2, there's a school I walk past every day when I go to get lunch. I won't be allowed to walk past it anymore if I grow the Dario Saric mustache. So
similarly, I just got this question from Andrew L. Who is Neil going to expose himself to after getting that guy off? I guess it's Terry Rozier.
Oh, I thought it was going to be us after the show ends and it's just us in Zoom.
Well, yeah, that's good point. Well, if I just stand up, then I'm going to expose myself to Greg.
That's true. Yeah, because he doesn't wear pants on the show. People don't know this, but Neil's dress is flannels up top, nothing on bottom, and the cap on top.
No, people know this. We've talked about it plenty. They know.
They forget though. Some people have short-term memories. All right, especially like Eric Johnson. So he's in here drinking. He doesn't remember these things. Look, now you're drinking as well. We're at lock, guys. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also shout out to No House Advantage, who is sponsoring our show today. So we're going to build a prop parlay for their Against the House contest. Don't forget, if you guys haven't signed up at NHA yet, use the link below. Get up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit over there. So this is what we're going to do. Neil, you and I will look at the projections at NBA Bet Pro, and Jordan will build a prop for us on screen. And then at some point during this, I presume we're going to get Joel Embiid news, and then we'll be able to pull up some props and see how that is going to impact anything that happens. But right now, Jordan, put those on screen. See who he's got us being shared in Zoom right now. And by the way, also, of course, we just ordered. So we figured out, by the way, everybody, the reason that I keep dropping out on shows, it has been a camera issue, not an internet issue. So we ordered a new camera for myself, and then it just didn't drop out today. But super chat as well from Tim L. So anyway, incoming, what we're going to do, answer the super chat, build an Against the House prop card, and then we're going to hopefully get that Joel Embiid news in the near future. But first, from Tim, he wants to know, how about CJ McCollum? He should play a lot of point guard minutes with Alvarado out, and plus revenge game. Did you play any of CJ McCollum?
I got 10% CJ McCollum, which it wasn't anything that I like forced in there just based on his projection. I do want to interject and say Malakar yesterday was asking me to do some voice, like some read Apparently, he thinks that I have a good radio voice, so he wanted me to do some radio read. I don't remember what the phrase was he wanted me to say, but I did tell him I would do it today. So if you tell me what to say, I'll just read what you said, Malakar, and hopefully it sounds the way you want it to. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be like doing a voice. Like I don't do impressions. I can just do it in my own voice. But Malakar says radio, but you're not telling me what to say, Malakar. You got to tell me what to say.
Malakar's a good guy, so you don't have to implement this for this. There's something I have learned and I try to take to heart. When everybody tells you to say something, asks you a super chat, read it ahead before you read it out loud on the show. It leads to because you will get into times where like somebody called Eric a very not nice word the other day on the show in the super chat. And we had to get rid of it. And I started reading it and I started laughing because I was like, oh, I should have read this one ahead before and did it. But yeah, Malakar won't try to get you in trouble, but other people, they're up to no good in that YouTube chat. As for CJ McCollum, yeah, I think he's a good GPP play. I think there's upside in him. I wouldn't play him in cash games, though. There's too much risk considering he's dealing with an injury that he's playing through right now. But for tournaments, he serves as a decent leverage play off of Brandon Ingram, who's going to be very popular.
Yeah.
So let's pull up NBA Bet Pro right now, doing that on my screen. And Jordan, put NHA up on your screen or the screen that people are watching so we could look at that. And if you guys want to check out NBA Bet Pro.
Embiid out.
There we go. See, this is why we didn't. All right. Sorry, Jordan. I know I just asked you to put this on the screen, but now we're going to go to the other stuff. Breaking news alert. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Joel Embiid is out. But I was going to hit one of these eventually because Joel Embiid's questionable on the injury report. And every day I say, I think he might not play.
Yeah.
So I can't really take any kind of, it's like I've gone like 1 for 20 with Joel Embiid being ruled out, but we also got some unexpected news here. Tyrese Maxey starting place of Joel Embiid. You and I were trying to speculate. Is it going to be Paul Reed? Is it going to be Montrezl Harrell? No. We could both go fuck ourselves. It's Tyrese Maxey. We weren't even close to guessing that correct.
Interesting.
So Tyrese Max, and also I'm going to pull up the on-off court numbers for the Sixers.
Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. So Butler and Austin tweeted at me. Just this is his Giddey reasoning. Last night, Giddey was -32 and Dort was -28. That's his plus minus for the game. The coach said he wanted to reward who was playing well last night, so he stuck with the bench, which can always be a risk, et cetera, et cetera. But that's I appreciate the explanation, Matt. Thank you for he sent me really helpful information in the past as well. So I do appreciate you sending that because it was not clear to me why they cut his minutes, but it sounds like so if he is playing well, Giddey could see regular minutes.
For sure. But now, because I did see that yesterday as well, but Dario Saric was the Thunder's best player yesterday and he didn't close the game either. So I don't really I think that it's still kind of, we're pushing random buttons around there.
But that does make Dario Saric more risky too, right? If he saw big minutes because he was playing well yesterday and he's going to be chalky.
But the other thing I was saying is that Saric still didn't close the game yesterday, even though he played.
Yeah.
So it's still a lot of randomness.
Right. But extra reason to be a little bit cautious with Saric.
If it wasn't for the price point, he's 3,200. So
yeah,
it's hard for me to see a scenario where he just really kills lineups. But let's update some lineups for news from the Philadelphia 76ers. No Joel Embiid. He is out today. So this starting lineup for the Sixers is Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, Anthony Melton, Tobias Harris, PJ Tucker starting at center. What's your initial reaction to this, Neil?
Maxey, it probably just means that Maxey's going to get a little bit of extra minutes. Probably does decrease his usage a little bit. So I don't know. I'm going to wait for our projections to update a little bit on Maxey. It obviously helps James Harden. I don't think I want to play PJ Tucker anyway. I had a lot of interest in either Montrezl Harrell or B-Ball Paul, but PJ Tucker, I'm not sure I'm going to go there anyway. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the on-off court numbers right now. First thing that stands out, the team leader in usage, no shock here. James Harden, 31.6%. So just south of a 32% usage rate for James Harden per 36 minutes. Scores 53.81. DraftKings points per 36 minutes without Joel Embiid. FanDuel points that equals to 51.81. But don't be surprised if we see 40 minutes out of James Harden today. So Harden to me is a pay-up option that I certainly want to get to. And then for me also, Tyrese Maxey is another player that's going to play a ton. I kind of think he should be starting for them anyway.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
But Maxey is going to be, I was not expecting him to start in place of Joel Embiid. He's going to be my number one priority Philadelphia 76er.
It's down to 5,200. Yeah, I mean, usage probably comes down a little bit with the starting unit, but like the minutes coming up is going to be enough to offset that. So yeah, I like Maxey quite a bit.
All right, so let's update some of these. So Harden upgrade, Maxey upgrade. What is Tobias Harris this year? 23.4% usage rate, scores just over a fantasy point per minute in the absence of Joel Embiid. I know Tobias Harris has been absolute dog shit lately, but he also has a very reasonable price point. I'm going to like Tobias Harris a bunch here as well. I'm going to get to a lot of Sixers.
Yeah. I wish it was a better matchup like that, dampens it a little bit, but still, I'm going to play a lot of Sixers.
And then the other one that's kind of interesting here is Melton's minutes have been, these are the four players I'm going to be getting to the most from the Sixers. It's actually just the starters who aren't PJ Tucker, because even DeAnthony Melton, I think, is going to end up going under-owned. His minutes have also been all over the place lately. The Sixers don't have that much depth. I think he's going to also have to play extended minutes.
Yep. No, I agree. I like Melton as well.
Run some lineups. So this is why I'm happy I didn't really get much exposure outside of Rozier to the first game.
Yeah, me too. Looks like we've already updated our projections, so that's nice.
Would you, Jordan, would you mind putting those on screen? Let's talk about the projections. And by the way, I know that we have Lee updating the projections behind the scenes. That ended up getting updated really fast. So good job there, Lee. And let's look at these on screen and let's see if I'm too far off from what I ended up doing here, because I think we're getting big minutes out of Melton, Harris, Maxey, and Harden. I think all of them are going to play pretty significantly. As you guys could see there, 30 seconds ago, this news came out and Lee had it updated in just a couple of minutes. Once again, if you guys want to sign up for any of our packages, you want to know how everything is going to be updated post-lock, you get it. You can get any subscription available right now, 50% off when you sign up for the first time using the link below. Here's what we got, guys. So James Harden, 51 fantasy points. We've got Tyrese Maxey at 33, making him, it looks like, the second best value on the team behind only Paul Reed. Paul Reed, it looks like we have, he gave 20 minutes to Paul Reed. I was a little lighter on Paul Reed's minutes. I'm going to be curious to see what his ownership is. Like, you could make a case for him in large field tournaments. The issue that I have with Paul Reed, number one, center eligible, 0.2 also, if it ends up being Harold that's the first man off the bench, then Reed just isn't going to play very much. I get it. Somebody has to play the minutes. I would prefer Paul Reed to Montrezl Harrell just because Paul Reed is the better fantasy producer. It's a risky spot, though.
Yeah.
But really, as you can see here, the core guys for us here based on our projections, Harden, viable as a pay-up option. Then you get Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, and DeAnthony Melton, all look pretty strong in the other ranges there. Paul Reed, somebody you're going to be playing in large field tournaments?
I think I might play just a little bit. He's going to get zero ownership just because he's not starting, so people aren't going to take that risk. I don't know. I don't want to play a ton of Paul Reed because I still like, I think the Jackson Hayes upside is a lot higher than Paul Reed's. Obviously, we don't know that Jackson Hayes, that we don't know J-Val's situation currently. Maybe I'll have him in like one lineup. I'm playing 31 lineups tonight. I don't think I want Paul Reed in more than like two of them at most.
That's fair. I'm going to rerun lineups here and see where I end up on some of these guys. I also don't think I'm going to get too much Paul Reed, but I'll let you guys know in a second here. And I'll also tell you as I'm rerunning lineups who I end up getting the most exposure to from the Sixers after that all gets updated. Let me make sure that we didn't have any super chats or questions in Discord. Oh, here we go. Coley posting, is Tobias Harris lock and load now? So my lineup's running. I ended up with 35% Tobias Harris. In order of exposure, this is what I got. I got Maxey 1, Melton 2, Harden 3, Harris 4 from the 76ers. And then I just have one lineup with Paul Reed.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I'm adjusting mine as we go. But yeah, I think I want some of all of these guys. So I think the only 5 that I'm going to have exposure to are Harden, Maxey, Harris, Melton, and Paul Reed. And I think my favorites in order would be Maxey, Harden, Harris, Melton, Reed, probably.
Okay. Let's see. What did that? And then I don't know if you noticed as you were updating lineups, who was what changed out? Because there's always, opportunity costs and players getting moved in and out. With the update to the Sixers, how did this impact players for you in your lineups from other teams?
Looks like my Rui came down quite a bit, but I'm still playing 45% Rui. So like didn't really lose that much. Yeah, I'm trying to think what John Morant down from 40% to 29%. I think that's just a result of the Harden exposure. I think Dennis Schroeder at 32%, what I have right now, is probably lower than it was previously. Maybe I think I had around 23% Giannis already, so that's not a big change. Yeah, I can't find any huge changes here. How about you?
Yeah, I'm looking too. So I end up with a little bit more Giannis now, just with the extra value. He was already the guy who's projecting the best for me. I'm updating one more time because I lost out on more Schroeder than I would have liked to have lost out on. So I'm upping him a little bit just to make sure that I get to him. Because what happened was I was getting to so much of guys like Harden, Maxey, Melton, that Schroeder kind of fell by the wayside. So I'm updating that to get more. My Dario Saric exposure did come down a little bit just with extra cheap guys being in the mix. And then who else? My Josh Giddey, I'm happy about this. My Josh Giddey exposure just naturally came down a ton from that. Like, I don't mind being underweight to the field on Josh Giddey after what happened yesterday. Hard to trust his minutes.
Yeah, it's just hard. Like now I'm wondering, is Josh Giddey going to go under owned because of what happened yesterday, though, with the, at least potential of hitting him in its ceiling?
Could be. We'll see what the field ends up doing. Can you check, Neil? Do we have, or actually Jordan, can you check to see if the ownership projections are updated, Jordan? That might still be running.
Let's see.
See if we got the ownership projections up. I'll be curious to see what
so I got some.
Perfect.
So you see it too?
Yeah, so we've got the ownership updated 1 minute ago. As you guys could see, yeah, click on the Sixers. Let's just isolate them and then do it for FanDuel as well. So the most popular Sixer, no real surprise there, Tyrese Maxey, then James Harden. Tobias Harris and D'Anthony Melton are way too low owned, in my opinion. They should be more popular. The field jumped on Maxey. The field a little bit light on Harris and Melton. Those are two of my favorite tournament plays now.
Yeah.
Now go to the FanDuel projections. I want to see what some of the FanDuel ownership is at. Do the same thing. Sort by the Sixers. Let's see what we got going on there. James Harden, most popular Sixer. Paul Reed also. But Maxey is under-owned on FanDuel. Melton, a little bit under-owned. I love getting the Sixers now.
Yeah, these guys all look relatively. I mean, Harden, we have all the way up at 40% on DraftKings. So that feels about right to me.
Oh, we just I thought it was like 35 or something.
I'm looking at our DFS projection changelog Slack channel. I don't know if that's affected, if that's been updated here yet.
Oh, good. Well, you're from the future.
I'm from the future. Let's see.
From the future. We'll see. It'll be updated in a second. But let's also build out the parlay card over on NHA. I want to see also if there's any Sixers prop lines that are still up. What's that number on Tobias Harris? Wasn't there Tobias Harris at the top? Oh no, it's Tyler Hero. Never mind. Are there any Sixers players or no? No, it looks like this. I mean, as they should be, they were quick. They took Sixers players off the board. So no props that we could take advantage of for NHA purposes. They've all been removed. So let's look yourself and me, Neil. Let's look at the NBA Bet Pro tool, which once again, if you guys want to check this out, you get a 7-day free trial signing up below. Who are some of the best props on the board over for NHA? By the way, if you build a 4-leg parlay, 11x at NHA. 5-leg parlay, 21x. You won't find those odds anywhere else. If you want to sign up, use the link below. Up to a $100 bonus on that deposit. NHA props. Our number, but we've actually got some good-looking ones today, like way higher projection percentages than we normally see.
Yeah, these are nice. Beasley near the top there with the line of 3.5 3-pointers from Malik Beasley. We've got him at 4.6. That looks pretty nice.
Yeah, let me see. Compare some of these numbers. Mikal Bridges.
I actually
like
just
the
went to
over.
our NHA projections page, which is free. So anybody can go there.
Let's start with Mikal Bridges over 3.5 assists, Jordan.
Yeah.
That's our number one rated one. We've got it winning 68% of the time. Lock and load. It's a big 3-point prop for Beasley. We also have it projected well. Let me see. What do sports books have Beasley? Just as like a comparison point. I'll look. What does DraftKings have for Beasley? And then we'll compare it. They also have, I'm just going to bet this after we get off the show. Yeah, Beasley's over under for threes is 3.5. We've been projected for 4.6. I like that everywhere. Put it into our NHA card, but also I'm going to like that on like DraftKings and FanDuel Sportsbook as well. Oh, Malik Beasley for over 3.5 threes. Put that in. Back to you, Neil. What do you see that looks good?
So we like the Jimmy Butler points under. I don't feel as confident in it though with Embiid out. So I don't know that I really want to necessarily.
By the way, as an addition to that, it is it's really hard to project for when an opposing player's defensive player is out, right? Because like we have on-off court numbers we can look at for reference and see like, oh, this is what James Harden's usage does when Joel Embiid's off the court. It's hard to say when Joel Embiid's off the court, like what does it do to the Sixers defense and how does that affect other players' fantasy production and counting stats? It does stand to reason that it benefits all of those guys. It's just hard to say for sure, but I agree with you. I know we project Butler well and the reason the Butler's unders project well is that a couple of things going on. Number one, his usage has been lower as of late and his minutes. He's not playing a ton of minutes. So like last game we saw Butler score, I think it was 23 points, but he also only played, if memory serves correct, 31 or 32 minutes. So the minutes just haven't really been there for Butler, nor has the usage been. But yeah, I'm going to avoid it with Embiid out.
I like this Desmond Bane line over 2.5 3-pointers. He's 7 threes per game this season. He's making 2.9 threes per game. Yeah, there's a little bit of blowout risk, but again, if they do blow out the Rockets, it's probably because they're scoring a lot of baskets. So I think I like the over 2.5 threes for Desmond Bane.
Yeah, and there's no easier matchup you could have than the Houston Rockets. And Desmond Bane, one of the more unheralded glue type guys we have in the NBA. Like Desmond Bane rules. And he's somebody who I think in another era could be like an all-star type level player. The problem is there's like 50 guys that are all-star caliber players in the NBA right now. Desmond Bane is very, very good. If you look at his numbers for the year, he's averaging 3 threes per game this season, and he's getting a really good matchup against the Rockets. So I do think he hits that over 2.5 more often than not. That puts us at 4, right? Right, Jordan? Is it 3?
Beasley, Bridges, Bane. Yeah.
All right. I thought we had another one. Oh, you know what it was? Because we talked about Butler and then passed.
Yeah.
How do
you feel about like Isaiah Joe? Like some of these are just really hard for me to feel confident in. The OKC guys, Isaiah Joe, Jalen Williams. Do you like either of those unders?
Do we have the starting lineup yet for OKC?
By the way, Patrick Beverley has 15 fantasy points, not even halfway through the first quarter.
Oh my God.
16, now nearly 17. I don't know what is going on. Pat Bev has 5 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, a steal, and 2 points. This is like, man,
shooting 100% from the field too.
99th percentile Patrick Beverley game.
He might not score a point the rest of the game, though.
That's true. Yeah.
What else is going on in those early games? So Patrick Beverley is going crazy for the Phoenix Suns. They're up 11-8 early against the Hornets. So Hornets, not really much going on because they've only scored 8 points. And so pretty much everybody's struggling for the Hornets. Maybe I didn't even want Terry Rozier from that first game. Maybe I wanted nobody from any of the early games. Well, potentially Patrick Beverley, but I wasn't going to be playing him.
No. Yeah, currently I think the only player you really want is Patrick Beverley.
And it's in general just going to be, all right, there Rozier just hit a 3. So Rozier's up to 6 fantasy points in the first few minutes. So not the end of the world for him. The points per minute rates change drastically when somebody gets a 3 a couple minutes into the game. Then they look significantly better. So Rozier's on the board now, but let's get back to NHL. Let's build out this parlay. We've got 7 minutes about left in the show here. We've got 2 more picks to find. I'm by the way, I'm with you. You know where some of these OKC guys could look really good? If this starting lineup for the Thunder comes out and Isaiah Joe's coming off the bench, hit that under 15.5 points. I'm just not ready to pull the trigger until we get that starting lineup, which we don't have yet. What else is looking good? We've got Dinwiddie projected with his unders. For the Nets are another team. It's so hard to project them. The minutes aren't consistent. The usage isn't consistent. I'm going to avoid the Dinwiddie one. We like CJ McCollum's points under. Another one, Josh Giddey. We like an over on him. It's so hard with some of these players. What does Josh Hart look like with the Knicks so far? Because we like Josh Hart, the under on his points. We have under 9.5.
I was looking at Drew Eubanks. Like we got the line is 7.5 rebounds. We're projecting Drew Eubanks for 8.2 rebounds tonight. But even that, I'm like looking at his per 36 stats. He's averaging 9.2 per 36. What do we think Drew Eubanks minutes are going to look like tonight? Like 28?
The last few games, it's been 25, 22, 24, 28, 24.
Surprised we like the over there.
We don't have to go to 4 or 5. We could cut it off at 3. Keep digging, though.
That's a nice thing about versus the house. It's like you have to make at least 2.
Sorry, super chat here from Corey Bomber. LMI, which last man in. Where'd it go? Oh, here we go. Last man in. Jaren Jackson Jr., Josh Giddey, or CJ McCollum?
I think we might differ here. I think I'm going to go back to Giddey and just hope that, sometimes players, it kind of lights a fire under that where they play terrible one night, the coach benches them, the next night they'll come back. I mean, that's narrative based. But he projects really well for us under the assumption that he plays regular minutes. So I think, if you think he's going to come back and play well enough to just play his regular minutes, he projects really well. So for me, I think it's Giddey.
No, it's Giddey for me as well.
Okay.
Like I'm underweight to the field on him, but I still get more exposure to him than I do to McCollum or Jaren Jackson Jr. Like I'm going to be rooting against him because I'm underweight to the field on him now.
Right.
Would he be inclined to look at his NHA over 7.5 rebound prop though?
For Giddey? Let's see.
We have him projected for 8.2. By the way, Terry Rozier going nuts now.
Is he?
There's my guy. 7 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist now for Terry Rozier.
That's what I like to hear.
What's going on with
Giddey? 9 rebounds per 36 for Josh Giddey. And the line is 7.5.
The line is 7.5.
And he averages how many minutes? Let's see. Yeah, 31 minutes. I don't love the over there.
All right. We don't have to force it. Mobley for under 16.5. Don't really love that either. We like Spencer Dinwiddie, the over on his rebounds. Hard to feel great about that for me. How about we cut it off at 3?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
All right, Jordan, we're going to stop at 3. That's our 3. Put it back on screen so we could recap it. Or Jordy, close it out. Yeah, just put it back up so we could recap what it looks like here. Yeah, so we ended up going with, I forget the players. It's been so long now. All right, we had Mikal Bridges over 3.5 assists. We have Malik Beasley over 3.5 threes. And then we have Desmond Bane over 2.5 threes. We had on all 3 of those, it would pay out 5x our money. So that's going to be our NHA parlay of the day. So if you guys want to tail us, go check that out. And a couple minutes left to go here, but we did just get a super chat from Leaky Crease. Leaky Crease wants to know Schroeder and Vanderbilt or Maxey and Dort. That is Schroeder and Vanderbilt for me. I love Maxey, but so of those players, I get to a bunch of Schroeder, I get to a bunch of Vanderbilt, I get to a lot of Maxey. Maxey of those players is the player I have the most exposure to. Dort is the one I have the least exposure to. So I'm going to lean with the Schroeder and Vanderbilt side, even though I really like Maxey just because my Dort is my least favorite. But for you, which combo, Schroeder and Vanderbilt or Maxey and Dort? I don't really think you could go wrong either way, but Schroeder and Vanderbilt's my answer.
That's what I was going to say. They look pretty similar to me. I think I'm with you. Vanderbilt is actually my most exposed of that group. Yeah, I think I'd go with Schroeder Vanderbilt.
All right, so that is going to be the answer there. I'm going to go check back into our Discord channel, see if we have any questions in there to finish us out. Dre Everyday wants to know how many Sixers on FanDuel for GPPs. I don't mind having 4. I think you could get to 4 without too much of an issue.
I'd still say 3 just because we don't have any, like, a lot of guys are good values relative to their salaries, but none of them are like 3,500 plays. So for me, the max is going to be 3 on Sixers on FanDuel.
Okay. Yeah, I would say for DraftKings, I'll say 4, FanDuel 3 though. I think I'm more in line to agree with you. And 8604, who will play the backup center minutes for Philly? I think Paul Reed's more likely, but I think it's a coin flip between Reed and Harrell.
Yeah, I think
Reed's better, and but Harrell is more of a better matchup against Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, I mean, just based on our projections, we have Reed playing 19.6 minutes. We have Montrezl Harrell playing 9 minutes. So I lean towards Reed.
I lean towards Reed, but it's not like total confidence.
Yeah.
Vince 1979 Gator, Melton or Austin Reeves. That's Melton for me.
Mm-hmm.
R. Schindler wants me to rap Mo Bamba in honor of Eric. I will do nothing in honor of Eric. If you want to know what I'll do in honor of Eric, like I'm more apt to fart into my microphone in honor of Eric than I am to rap in honor of Eric. Lippy wants to know thoughts on Magruder. I didn't play Magruder today. All right.
Have fallen out there?
We, I mean, so here was the issue the other day with the Rodney Magruder thing. I got a fuck, marry, kill question. The answers were Rodney Magruder, JT Thor, and who is the other terrible player? Who was it? I can't remember now. And it was 3 terrible basketball players. Oh, it was and Isaiah Livers. Okay. Those were the 3. So like I picked Rodney Magruder, but I was really backed into a corner and forced into it. You don't want to be forced into a marriage, but yeah. I kind of was there because like, who am I going to pick of the 3? I would have pushed all 3 of them off the bridge, but that wasn't one of the options given to me.
Sorry, you had to go with Magruder there. Sounds rough.
It was rough. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for sticking around. We are now at lock. If you haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck tonight. We got the Joel Embiid news. Hopefully the Sixers go off. Hopefully the Jonas Valanciunas news goes our way as well. So see you guys back here tomorrow. Have a good night. Oh.